Chapter 14. After listening to the second manager's narration, the ice goddess priestess slowly nodded. Demon killer? It seems that there was more than one person there at the time. You're quite smart to be able to see some clues from Liao San's death. That's right, the real cause of his death wasn't the explosion of flames. Before the explosion, his head was already injured by ice magic and his brain was baptized by ice. He was already dead before the explosion of flames reached his body. Look, although his head is a bit charred due to the ice, it's still intact. Using my spiritual force, I discovered that his wound is very small, only the size of a pinhole. He should have been killed by a needle-shaped attack. Moreover, there's clearly the aura of the ice goddess stone on his head. Clearly, this magic was emitted by the ice goddess stone. That's right. The magician who killed him is extremely strong in magic control. To be able to condense ice into a needle shape and pierce through the hardest part of a person's skull, he should at least have the strength of a sorcerer. The fire magician you saw was clearly just a cover. Only with the cooperation of two magic killers could the scene at that time be formed. Long Ji, immediately gather all the ice sorcerers in the city here. Whoever has the aura of the ice goddess stone is the murderer. Long Ji hesitated for a moment before saying, Goddess priestess, I think that the magicians under me shouldn't be assassins. You also know that magicians have a very high status on the continent. With Liao San's identity, I'm afraid that there's no need for a sorcerer to make a move. For two magicians to form an assassin team, there's clearly something fishy about it. I hope you can investigate thoroughly. The goddess priestess clearly had a good impression of Long Ji. She wasn't as rude as when she rebuked the Marquis. She said indifferently, although what you said is reasonable, as the saying goes, one may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. Bring them all here. After my investigation, everything will naturally be cleared up. It seems that the ice goddess stone has been obtained for a long time. The number of ice sorcerers is very limited. It seems that the person hiding in the dark is not simple. Do as I say and try to solve everything in the shortest time possible. At the same time, send the other magicians under you to guard the 4 gates of Ice Snow City. Do you understand? Long Ji nodded respectfully and said, I'll go now. After he finished speaking, his body flashed with a green light. When everyone came back to their senses, his body had already disappeared. A strange light flashed in the eyes of the priestess of the snow goddess. She thought to herself, Long Ji is indeed worthy of being called the most outstanding magic genius on the continent. He's only in his 50s, but his wind magic has already reached the point of perfection. With my guidance, perhaps within 20 years, there will be another God's Descent Master in the Ice Moon Empire, a wind magic God's Descent Master. However, did he need to do that? The dignity of the Ice God Tower was inviolable. Nian Bing is chopping firewood in the woodshed. He has just answered all kinds of questions from Uncle Li, and it is not easy for him to dodge them. The wonderful chef Wang Mingyuan gave him quite a shock. His skill is definitely not something that can be achieved through practice. He is indeed worthy of being the head chef of the Qingfeng Pavilion. However, compared to what he imagined, Wang Mingyuan is still a little lacking. This is because he can also make the same golden fragrance ring. At most, his speed is a little slower than Wang Mingyuan. Although he has already noticed something, Xuejing does not seem to have noticed. This time, she brought me to learn the golden fragrance ring technique from Wang Mingyuan. Perhaps it is to compensate for the red hand on my face. At that thought, Nian Bing couldn't help but smile bitterly as he touched his bandaged face. Even though the swelling of the palm print was gradually subsiding, it would take at least 2 more days for it to heal. That slap really wasn't light. However, Xuejing's healthy and beautiful body is indeed very attractive, but her skin feels. Shaking his head hard, Nian Bing secretly scolded himself. Why am I thinking about these messy things? I haven't gotten my revenge yet. The most important thing now is to gradually improve my strength, and not to put my thoughts in this aspect. It seems that I can't go to Feng Nu's side for the time being. If she sees the palm print on my face, I don't know what she will think. The same goes for the Magician's Guild. I'll think about it in a few days. He is at a loss. It is because of Shuejing's slap that he quietly stayed in the woodshed for 3 days and avoided a fatal disaster. 3 days have passed. Nian Bing is just like an ordinary servant, chopping firewood every day. Other than chopping firewood, he would go back to his room to cultivate his ice and fire magic in silence. During cultivation, the ice goddess stone only absorbs the ice element in the air, and does not release ice magic. Therefore, no matter how powerful the ice goddess priest is, it is impossible for them to discover his location. Nian Bing has been waiting for Ming Yuan to come find him, but Ming Yuan never appeared. Even during meals every day, he did not eat with the chefs. Because he saw the process of Ming Yuan making the golden fragrance ring with Shuejing's help that day, the other chefs were somewhat alienated from him. Apart from Uncle Li, no one in the kitchen would take the initiative to talk to him. Nian Bing is also happy to have the peace and quiet, so naturally he will not take the initiative to greet them. 3 days have passed, and the slap mark on his face finally disappeared. Nian Bing finished his work in the morning. After informing Uncle Li, he quietly sneaked out from the back door of Qingfeng Pavilion. At this time, the north gate of Ice Snow City is completely under martial law under the guard of thousands of soldiers. The Castellan, the president of the Magician's Guild, and the important people in Ice Snow City are all secretly relieved. The god of plague in their hearts is finally leaving. How can they not be happy? After 3 days of strict search, the person the ice goddess priest is looking for is not found. The 2 ice elemental sorcerers in the Magician's Guild also passed her spiritual detection. For the normal operation of Ice Snow City, the ice goddess priest has to temporarily give up everything. Lord Marquis, this time I have to thank you for your help. The person with the ice goddess stone has probably left Ice Snow City. I will continue to investigate. If you find anything, immediately report to the Ice God Tower. Archmage Longji, please cooperate with the investigation. If an unfamiliar ice elemental sorcerer appears, you must find out the origin, understand? The Marquis and Longji both agreed. Under their escort, the ice goddess priest walked out of Ice Snow City. The wide sleeves of the white robe gently waved, and the light between heaven and earth completely darkened. Snowflakes floated in the air. The ice goddess priest actually stepped on a palm-sized snowflake and floated away. Her amazing skill made people gasp in amazement. Seeing the ice goddess priest leave, the Marquis couldn't help but let out a big sigh of relief. He looked at Long Ji and couldn't help but bitterly smile. Old Long, I'll treat you at noon. Let's go to Qingfeng Pavilion for a meal. I know you like the bland food there. These past few days I've been so nervous. I'm afraid I didn't serve the ice goddess priest well. Long Ji smiled and said, I should be the one treating Lord Marquis. These past few days I've also been like this. Even my magic training time has been reduced a lot. I think Qingfeng Pavilion's green bamboo wine should be able to help us calm down. I've already told Big Brother Shui that this time, he'll take out 30 years of green bamboo wine for us to taste. Big Brother Shui, you won't be stingy, right? As he said that, Long Ji looked at a white-clothed middle-aged man not far behind him. The white-clothed middle-aged man looked to be around 40 years old. His appearance was very elegant, just like a scholar. The golden-clothed boss of Great Accomplishment Pavilion was beside him. At this time, when he heard that the Marquis and the president of the Magician's Guild had both chosen Qingfeng Pavilion, his face became somewhat gloomy. The white-clothed middle-aged man helplessly smiled and said, You guys just can't forgive me. Drink, drink, drink. In any case, there won't be any left after drinking. Brother Jean Hao, do you want to taste it together? The boss of Great Accomplishment Pavilion indifferently said, Many thanks, Brother Shuiyu. However, Great Accomplishment Pavilion still has a lot of things waiting for me to deal with. Liao San also just passed away, so I won't go. I'll come another day to apologize. Shui Yu smiled faintly. It's not good to force you. Lord Marquis, Old Long, let's go. There have been too many things these days. Even our Qingfeng Pavilion's business has been greatly affected because of the lockdown. At Shui Yu's reminder, the Marquis slapped his forehead and said in realization, "Look at my memory. Come, immediately pass on my order to lift the seal on the city. Let's go, I want to drink more today. These 2 days have really tired me out. I'm old and my body can't take it anymore. Old Shui, you have to let the wonderful Chef King personally cook today. His bamboo dishes are the most suitable for my current taste." Nian Bing made several turns and arrived at the entrance of the shop. She held some vegetables and meat in her left hand and lightly knocked on the door a few times. "Feng Nu, are you there?" Footsteps sounded and the door opened. Feng Nu poked her head out of the door. When she saw Nian Bing, she couldn't help but smile and hurriedly opened the door. "Come in, great chef. You've finally remembered me today?" Nian Bing bitterly smiled. "I wanted to come a few days ago, but there were too many things to do and I didn't have time. I'm really sorry, but I'll definitely make a good meal for you today." Feng Nu blinked her bright eyes and smiled. "I was just joking with you. You took it seriously. If you have something to do, go ahead and do it. I don't care what I eat. Actually, I don't want to eat the food you cook. If I eat too much and become picky, what should I do when you leave?" After saying the last word, she realized that her words were wrong. Her pretty face couldn't help but slightly blush. She hurriedly turned around and walked inside with Nian Bing. Looking at Feng Nu's perfect back, Nian Bing secretly nodded. In terms of appearance and figure, Xuejing and Long Ling were inferior to Feng Nu. Especially Feng Nu's noble and elegant temperament, which made people have a good impression of her. Coupled with her gentleness, Nian Bing would definitely be lying to himself if he said that he wasn't moved by such a perfect woman. However, he now only regarded Feng Nu as a friend and put all his thoughts on improving his cooking and magic. Before the matter of the Ice God Tower was completed, he really didn't want to think about other things and distract himself. Arriving at the courtyard, Nian Bing looked up at the sky and smiled. "I'm going to the kitchen to cook first. I'll be done in a while." Feng Nu looked back and smiled. "Don't be in such a hurry. Take a rest first." "Oh right, don't make such troublesome things today. I'm really sorry. You're a guest, so I should cook for you. But I'm really too stupid. Besides cooking porridge, I don't know how to do anything else." Nian Bing looked at Feng Nu's smile and couldn't help but be a little infatuated. He muttered, "Feng Nu, you're really beautiful. Sorry, I'm going to cook first." Saying this, he took the things and hurried to the kitchen. Looking at Nian Bing walking into the kitchen, Feng Nu's eyes revealed a strange light. The gentleness disappeared and was replaced by a trace of coldness. She seemed to be thinking about something and muttered to herself, "Forget it. It's enough for me to get the parting heaven sword. Why should I be greedy for his stone of fire? Since he cooked for me, I'll let him have it. I think the elders won't blame me. This person called Nian Bing is really strange. He actually has so many treasures on him. If it was Big Sister, I'm afraid he wouldn't have anything left. Forget it. Who cares about him? I'll get the Xingyang saber and return the favor to that old man Huatian." Saying this, the coldness in Feng Nu's eyes gradually disappeared. She looked at the kitchen again and revealed a trace of confusion. This time, the speed of cooking was much faster. The reason why Nian Bing had chosen the extremely complicated pigeon meat rice last time was because he didn't have enough ingredients. This time, he had brought fresh vegetables and meat, so it was naturally much easier to handle. In just half an hour, the entire shop was filled with a delicious aroma. The standard 4 dishes and 1 soup were all different in color. Judging from the color and aroma, it was already the best. Nian Bing placed the dishes on the table in the courtyard and wiped the sweat on his forehead. He smiled and shouted into the room, "Feng Nu, it's time to eat. Come quickly. It smells so good. I finally don't have to eat porridge again." The light fragrance rushed into his face. Feng Nu rushed to the table at an extremely fast speed. Nian Bing only saw a blur in front of his eyes, and the chopsticks were already in her hands. Feng Nu pulled a stool from the side and followed Nian Bing, but her eyes never left the table. "Wow, are you cooking? Why do all the things you make look like handicraft? I can't bear to eat them." Although she said this, the chopsticks in her hands had already reached out and directly picked up a plate of sparkling red and yellow dishes. Nian Bing smiled and said, "If no one eats the food made by a chef, then he is a failure. I don't want that. It's good that you eat all of them. I know you have a big appetite, so I specially made more today. There will always be some left over from these 4 dishes. You just need to heat it up at night and it will be enough. The taste shouldn't change too much." Feng Nu picked up a golden object with her chopsticks and put it into her mouth. While chewing, she clearly felt that the meat was extremely tender and smooth, and the fragrance of the gravy was overflowing. After chewing twice, her lips and teeth were already filled with the fragrance. The salty and fresh part of the meat couldn't help but arouse her appetite. Nian Bing handed over a bowl of rice and said with a smile, "This dish is a little salty, so it's suitable for eating rice." Feng Nu looked at Nian Bing and praised, "It's great. I said that the taste would be picky because of you. It seems that it's about to become a reality. Why don't you eat it? What was this thing that I just ate? It's so tender. Is it fish? But there's no fishy smell." Nian Bing smiled and said, "I came here after eating. We have to open for business at noon, so I ate breakfast a little later. I'm not hungry. I'll go back in time for lunch later, so I won't eat here. What you just ate was not fish. It's a very ordinary dish called red gold frog. The red ones are round little chili peppers, and what you just ate was frog meat. The frog meat is very tender, and it's fresh and sweet. It's one of the best meats. As long as the fishy smell is removed, it will be very delicious. Hurry up and eat more." Even without Nian Bing's reminder, Feng Nu would definitely not eat less. While continuously eating, she chatted with Nian Bing with a clear voice. Her skill was so high that Ling Nian Bing was greatly impressed. "Nian Bing, you just said that you have a place. Do you know someone in Ice Snow City?" Feng Nu said while eating. Nian Bing shook her head and said, "No, I just found a job. You should know that place. It's Qing Feng Zhai in the city. It's not far from here." Qing Feng Zhai? The food there is so expensive. I haven't eaten there, but I heard that it's very good. With your skills, you must be the best chef there. Although I haven't eaten there, I'm sure that the food made by the chefs in Qing Feng Zhai is definitely not as good as yours. Nian Bing smiled and said, "You guessed wrong. I don't cook there. Other than my master, you're the first person to eat my food. In Qing Feng Zhai, I'm just a woodcutter." With a puff, Feng Nu spat out all the rice in her mouth and coughed loudly. This gave Nian Bing a fright. Nian Bing hurriedly scooped a bowl of soup for her. While patting her supple back, he sent the soup into her red lip. In his hurry, he couldn't care less about how intimate he looked at this moment. After a bowl of hot soup entered her stomach, Feng Nu finally recovered. She gasped for breath and said angrily, "Are you trying to choke me to death? Even if you're joking, you shouldn't joke like this." Nian Bing patted her back and smiled bitterly. "Who's joking with you? I'm just a woodcutter in Qing Feng Zhai. Your mental endurance is too weak. Calm down first." Feng Nu looked at Nian Bing in surprise. "Are you really chopping wood there? Do you have a fever?" As she said that, she stretched out her slender little hand and touched Nian Bing's forehead. The warm little hand brought a trace of fragrance. Her soft and smooth skin made Nian Bing's heart skip a beat. He grabbed her hand and said, "I'm fine. I chose to chop wood there because I didn't want to expose my cooking skills. The head chef of Qing Feng Zhai, the great chef Wang Mingyuan, has superb skills. I only went there to see what special skills he had. Why did I have to expose myself? If they knew my true cooking skills, I'm afraid it would be difficult for them to leave. Feng Nu's voice suddenly became much softer. She lowered her head and said, "You, let go of me first. How can you do this?" Nian Bing was shocked. Only then did he realize that because his right hand was holding Feng Nu's hand, his left hand had stopped patting her back and was now hugging her waist. Feng Nu's elastic body was completely in his arms. Such an intimate scene stunned him. He hurriedly let go of his hand and helped Feng Nu to sit up. No matter how smart he was, when faced with such an awkward situation, he didn't know what to say for a moment. He was tongue-tied for a long time before he stuffed the chopsticks into Feng Nu's hand. He coughed twice and looked at the big tree outside the courtyard wall. Feng Nu's eating speed was not as fast as before. Although she was still eating, her mood was very complicated. Strange feelings kept rising in her heart. Although she knew she shouldn't be like this, she couldn't help but steal a few glances at Nian Bing. For this meal, she obviously didn't eat as much as the pigeon meat rice last time. She only ate half of it before she put down her chopstick. Nian Bing was just about to help her clean up when he was stopped by Feng Nu. Feng Nu glanced at him and said calmly, "Let me do it. You sit for a while. I'll be done in a while." Nian Bing stood up. His mood was also complicated. He nodded and said, "Feng Nu, then I'll leave first. I'll come back to see you in 2 days." Feng Nu was a little disappointed and said, "You're leaving so soon?" Looking at her somewhat bitter eyes, Nian Bing couldn't take it anymore. He thought to himself, if this continues, I'm afraid I'll really be trapped. It's better to leave quickly. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate and nodded. I still have a lot of things to do when I go back. I can't take someone's salary for nothing. The matter of the righteous Yang saber is not urgent. Don't tire yourself out. Just take your time. Feng Nu nodded and put the leftovers in the kitchen. She personally sent Nian Bing to the door and said with a smile, "If you don't have anything to do, you can come back. Thank you for lunch." Nian Bing's mind had recovered a little at this time. He smiled and said, "What are you thanking me for? I should be thanking you. Go back, you're a girl. Close the door. Goodbye." After saying this, he finally left the shop in embarrassment. He immersed his mind in the same source of ice and fire magic. Only then did his mind calm down. Feng Nu watched as Nian Bing gradually walked away. She couldn't help but laugh. This silly boy. The dignified successor of the ghost chef actually went to chop firewood for others. Only he could think of such a thing. But, he's so silly that he's cute. If I bring him back, I don't know what the elders will think. His culinary skills are really superb. After leaving the shop, Nian Bing did not directly return to the Breeze house. He had already passed the agreed time of 3 days. He didn't know if the people of the Magician Guild would still recognize him. No matter what, he had to go there first. As long as he could read in their reference room, relying on his memory, once would be enough. He would not go there again in the future. At most a month, he would leave Ice Snow City and go to the next stop. Because of his hatred for the Ice God Tower, he did not want to do anything for the Ice Moon Empire, even if it was just the Magician Guild of the Ice Moon Empire. The trauma he had suffered when he was young had caused Nian Bing to have a cold nature. Everything he did was centered on himself. Apart from improving his abilities for revenge and pursuing the peak of culinary skills, he didn't want to do anything else. The ban on Ice Snow City was finally lifted. The streets were obviously lively. The people who did not dare to go out because of the lockdown for the past few days were now buying things they needed in various shops in the city. Especially the shops that sold daily necessities, at this time, were as busy as a marketplace. Feeling the lively scene in the streets, Nian Bing's mood could not help but improve. He identified the direction of the Magician Guild and strode towards it. Although the weather was hot, because he was carrying the morning dew dagger inlaid with the Ice Goddess stone, Nian Bing did not feel stuffy. Along the way, He looked around and felt free and at ease. Ice Snow City was indeed very big. Although Nian Bing walked very fast, it still took more than 2 hours to reach the entrance of the Magician Guild again. The pointed building made the Magician Guild very conspicuous. Because it was daytime, there were 2 guards wearing magic robes standing at the entrance of the Magician Guild. The 2 of them were about 16 or 17 years old. From the inconspicuous small logo on their magic robes, they were only magic apprentices and at most had the strength of a beginner mage. Striding forward, Nian Bing walked to the entrance of the Magician Guild and said to the 2 beginner mages guarding the door, "Hello, I'm looking for Magic Shooter Leon." The beginner mage on the left glanced at Nian Bing and asked doubtfully, "You're looking for Magic Shooter Leon? What's the matter?" Nian Bing said, "It's like this. 3 days ago, I came to the Magician Guild to take the magic test. At that time, it was too late, so Magic Shooter Leon told me to come find him the next day. But the next day, the entire Ice Snow City was in lockdown, so I couldn't come. Today, the lockdown was over, so I came immediately. I'm really sorry to have made Magic Shooter Leon wait for so long." The 2 young beginner mages showed surprise in their eyes. The one on the right said, You're the great mage who is younger than Sister Long Ling?" Nian Bing was stunned and said, "You know me too?" That day, Magic Shooter Leon did say that I already have the strength of a great mage. The beginner mage on the left looked at Nian Bing strangely and said, "These 2 days, the president asked us to look for you in the city, but we couldn't find you. You're finally here. Come in with me." Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself that even if his magic strength wasn't weak, there was no need for the president of the Magician Guild to personally order him to look for him. There was something fishy about this, so it was better to be careful. While thinking, he followed the beginner mage into the Magician Guild for the second time. As he walked, he secretly thought about how to deal with all kinds of situations. The beginner mage brought Nian Bing to a room in the Magician Guild and poured him a glass of water. "Wait here for a moment. I'll go and inform Magic Shooter Leon." This room was very large and seemed to be specially used to receive guests. There were murals on the walls that were similar to the previous test hall. Even the table in front of him had a hexagram pattern. Not long after, the sound of footsteps could be heard again. Water sorcerer Li Hua walked in from outside. As soon as he entered, Nian Bing immediately felt a strong pressure enveloping him. He turned his head and saw that Li Hua was looking at him with a strange gaze. He was standing there looking at him. "Greetings, Archmage Lichi." Nian Bing quickly stood up and bowed respectfully to Lichi. "Hello," Leon said calmly. "I've been waiting for you for 3 days. The lockdown is only for the outside. For the people in the city, it isn't too strong. It shouldn't affect your movements." Nian Bing said calmly, "I just came to Ice City not long ago. The sudden lockdown made me a little scared, so I waited until the lockdown was over before coming here. I'm sorry." Leon frowned. "Scared? As a mage with strong spiritual power, I'm afraid it's not easy for such negative emotions to appear." Nian Bing's face turned slightly red. "I came from a small place and have never seen such a big scene. It's so embarrassing." Leon kept his eyes on Nian Bing. His spiritual power shrouded Nian Bing's body, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't find a trace of weakness on Nian Bing's body. He smiled faintly and said, "In that case, come with me. From now on, you are a member of the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. Let's go. The ceremony is ready." He turned and walked out. Nian Bing hurriedly caught up with Li Hua and walked behind him. The dark character condensed his ice and fire power. If anything happened, even though the other party was a magic shooter, if he used 2 extreme spells at the same time to launch a sneak attack, he would definitely be able to confuse him for a while. Then, he would have a chance to escape. As he walked, he found it strange that the magic shooter here was trying to test him. Could it be that the fact that he killed Liao San had been exposed? Liao San was just a shopkeeper of De Qingxian. There was no need for a magic shooter like him to show up. With doubts in her heart, Nian Bing followed Leon into the main hall of the Magic Guild. The hall was unusually spacious. It was more than twice the size of the testing hall. In the hall, there were a few people standing there and talking. Magicians, from low to high, had different emblems on their chests. Beginner magicians only had a small emblems on their chests, such as a small green whirlwind for wind magicians, and a red flame for fire magicians. Because the color of a magician's robe was different according to the magic they used, these small emblems were very difficult to distinguish. At the intermediate level, there would be a silver border around the small emblems. At the advanced level, there would be another border. At the advanced level, there would be a total of 3 borders around the emblems. At the advanced level of Magic Shooter, the emblems would be bigger and turn golden. No matter which element a magician belonged to, their emblems were all golden. This was the standard for all magicians in the 5 empires on the continent. Archmages were almost the limit of magicians. The emblems on their chests would return to their original color, but there would be an additional 6-pointed star, just like Long Ji, the president of the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. There were a total of 5 magicians chatting in the hall. 2 of them looked about the same age as Leon and were actually magic shooters. The other 3 also had the emblems of great magicians. They were obviously the elites of the Magic Guild. Seeing Leon and Nian Bing walk in, they couldn't help but look at them. One of the fire magicians with the emblems of magic shooters on his chest smiled and said, "Leon, is this the newcomer you tested the other day? I can't tell from the surface." Chapter 15. The first thing Nian Bing did when he saw so many high-level mages was to carefully hide his ice and fire magic, especially the aura of his fire magic. With so many high-level mages around, he would most likely be attacked mercilessly if he made any sudden movements, let alone escape. Hearing the fire sorcerer's words, she hurried forward and said respectfully, "Nian Bing greets the seniors." The fire sorcerer who had spoken earlier seemed to be very straightforward. He laughed and said, "Don't call me senior. It's said that there is no seniority in learning. The one who reaches the top is respected. At your age, I seem to have just entered the realm of intermediate magician. At that time, it was already very fast. Welcome to our Ice Moon Empire's Magicians Guild." At this time, the 3 great magicians had retreated to the side because of their low status. In front of a sorcerer, a great magician could only be subservient. The other sorcerer had a golden ice flower insignia on his chest. Obviously, he was an ice sorcerer. He was not as easy to talk to as the fire sorcerer. He snorted coldly and exuded a gloomy aura. Li Hua walked to the 2 sorcerers and turned to Nianbing. According to the rules of the guild, when a new member joins the guild, there must be at least 1 elder in the realm of a sorcerer to hold the ceremony. If the new member is only an intermediate magician or below, then a great magician can also hold the ceremony. Your strength has reached the realm of a great magician, so today I invited the other 2 elders of the guild to hold the ceremony for you. Unfortunately, the president is out on business. Otherwise, it would be more appropriate for him to hold the ceremony for you. Please come forward and stand in the center of the hexagram. Li Hua pointed to the ground. Nian Bing agreed and walked to the center of the 3 sorcerers. Standing in the center of the hexagram, Li Hua's face revealed a faint smile. "I, Li Hua, am a water sorcerer. As an elder of the Ice Moon Empire's Guild of Magicians, I hold this ceremony. Great Elemental God, under your witness, Nian Bing will become a great magician of the guild. She will take pride in the honor and glory of the guild and dedicate her life to the guild. Nian Bing, let me ask you, are you willing to sacrifice everything for the guild?" "I'm willing," Nian Bing replied without the slightest hesitation. What everything referred to was too vague, but the binding force was extremely strong. Wasn't joining the Magicians Guild equivalent to entering a huge cage? Although Nian Bing agreed verbally, she added 2 more words in her heart. When put together it was, I'm not willing, my ass. Li Hua smiled and nodded to a Grand Magician. The Grand Magician's magic robe was very strange. It was silver. He stepped forward and murmured a few words. A silver light flashed and a light blue magic robe appeared in his hand. That was the magic robe that symbolized the identity of an ice magician. Although ice and water were of the same origin, the color of the ice magician's magic robe was lighter than that of the water magician's. Seeing the appearance of the magic robe, Nian Bing thought to herself, is this the so-called space magic? In the world of magic, the four elements of water, fire, earth, and wind were the foundation, and then special magic such as ice and thunder were derived. Space magic, light magic, and dark magic were very rare. Usually, the most common magic on the continent was space magic. As for light and dark magic, according to legend, these two magics seem to have been lost. However, when she was young, Rongtian once told Nian Bing that these two magic were actually not lost, but only some people with special bodies could master them. In terms of energy, light and dark magic were not much stronger than other magic, but they had their own special characteristics and were much more difficult to deal with. If she had the chance in the future, she would have to consult the Grand Magician of the Space Magician. It would be great if she could also use space magic. It was said that this kind of space magician could use a special space magic to store their own things, and it was very convenient to take them. If she could use that kind of magic, she would not have to carry so many things with her. She could even buy more spices to keep with her. Of course, Li Hua did not know that Nian Bing was thinking about using space magic to store spices. He took the magic robe from the space magician and walked to Nian Bing. He said, "The elemental god will bless you, child. Wear this magic robe and you will become a member of the Union. We are all your family and friends." Looking at Li Hua's sincere eyes, Nian Bing could not help but feel a little confused. However, she was not confused for too long. She took the magic robe from Li Hua and put it on herself. The size was just right. Obviously, it was made according to her figure. The light blue magic robe felt very good to the touch. It was obviously made of special materials. The whole magic robe exuded a faint magic aura. Although it was not strong, it was good for her to absorb ice element. There was a moon symbol embroidered with silver silk on the inside of the robe. At the bottom of the moon was a white ice flower. This was the symbol of the Ice Moon Empire. Looking at the 3 circles of silver around the ice flower on her chest, Nian Bing secretly called out in her heart, "Dad, Mom, do you see? Your son is now a Grand Magician, a dual-element Grand Magician. Just you wait. It won't be too long. I will definitely go to the Ice God Tower again." Li Hua looked at Nian Bing wearing the magic robe of an Ice Grand Magician and could not help but praise her in her heart. Nian Bing, who was already handsome, looked even more handsome in the luxurious magic robe. Her eyes were bright and she gave people a good impression. She smiled and said, "Sure enough, people need clothes. Put on the magic robe. You are a real Ice Moon Empire magician." Nian Bing respectfully saluted the 3 sorcerers. "Thank you for your help, sorcerers." Li Hua nodded to the space magician again. With a flash of silver light, a delicate magic staff and a silver badge appeared. The badge also had the symbol of the Ice Moon Empire on it. In the center of the silver ice flower was a transparent gem, which emitted faint magical waves. The magic staff was only a foot long. The body of the staff was blue, and at the head of the staff was a milky white gem, which emitted a faint frosty mist. Although it was far inferior to the Ice Goddess Stone, it was still a rare gem. Li Hua first handed the hexagonal badge to Nian Bing. "This is the symbol of our Ice Moon Empire magicians. With your status as an Ice Grand Magician, you are equivalent to a Chiliarch in the army. With this badge, you can dispatch any soldier under 1,000 to fight for you in any military camp in the 9 major cities of the Ice Moon Empire. At the same time, with this badge, you can also receive a salary from any branch of the Union. The salary varies according to your rank. With your current rank, you can receive 20 purple gold coins per month. The badge has a special mark left behind by our union, so it cannot be faked. Therefore, you must keep it well. If you lose it, immediately report it to the headquarters. We will cancel the effect of this badge, according to the mark on the badge. 20 purple gold coins, that was 200 gold coins. In addition to the power that the badge brought, it was definitely a treasure. It seemed that, under the lifelong obligation, there was also lifelong power. No wonder Father had said that joining the Magicians' Union was the dream of ordinary magicians. With this badge, it would be much more convenient for her to travel the continent in the future. After thanking Li Hua, she carefully put the badge into her bosom. At this time, Li Hua took the magic staff and said with a smile, "This magic staff is called Icicle. Originally, with your cultivation, the Union should not have given you such a precious magic staff. However, I have discussed with the President. The President saw that you are the youngest Archmage and have a bright future, so he gave you this magic staff in advance, which is supposed to be a reward for ice magicians of the sorcerer level. With it, you can increase the tempo of your incantation by a third. At the same time, when you condense your magic power, the ice element will be more obedient to your command. You have to keep it well. This is already a magic item of the gold tier." Gold class? Magician Li Hua, what is the meaning of gold class? Nian Bing asked the doubts in her heart. She did not know how the grades of magic items were differentiated. Li Hua smiled slightly and said, "It seems that although you have been in contact with magic for a long time, you do not really understand magic. Among all the magic items, gold class is already quite high. Magic items are divided into 6 classes: Divine class, Subdivine class, Dark gold class, Silver class, and Bronze class. Although gold class is only the 4th class, you must know that a single gold staff is worth more than 1,000 purple gold coins on the market. Dark gold class magic items are extremely rare. The highest grade, Divine class and Subdivine class, are very difficult to obtain. Even the President only has a Subdivine class staff. As for the real Divine class, it is said that only the Ice Goddess Priestess of the Ice God Tower has one, but I do not know what it is exactly. It does not seem to be a staff." Nian Bing looked at the icicle staff in her hand and thought, "If that is the case, then what is the level of my morning dew dagger when used as a staff?" She was afraid that it would be at least a dark gold class treasure. After all, the stone of the Ice Goddess was obviously much stronger than the icicle stone on the staff. "Thank you, magic shooters and President, for your cultivation. I will work hard to practice and strive to become a more powerful magician as soon as possible." Nian Bing's heart had already flown to the library of the Magic Guild. Now that he had obtained all that he needed, all he had to do was memorize the ice magic incantations that he needed. Li Hua smiled slightly and said, "I have given you what you should, and the ceremony has been completed. Now I will tell you some of the rules of the Magic Guild, so that you will not make mistakes in the future. You must remember the most important ones. First of all, as a magician of the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild, you must unconditionally obey the orders of the Magic Guild at all times. Once the Magic Guild is in danger, you will become a member of the Magic Legion. As for your specific position, it depends on your magic level at that time. This is something that you must abide by. Otherwise, not only will your magic level be revoked, but you will also be severely punished by the Magic Guild." Nian Bing nodded. Since she had obtained so many rights, it was inevitable that she would have obligations. Li Hua continued, "Second, when the Ice Moon Empire is in danger, as the Magic Guild of the Ice Moon Empire, we have the obligation to help the Ice Moon Empire fight against foreign enemies. Under such circumstances, you must unconditionally accept conscription and become a magician of the Magic Legion of the Empire. Of course, under such circumstances, the Empire will pay you extra, and the amount will be very high. If you make a contribution, you will also be rewarded." After hearing this, Nian Bing was very confused. Since it was the magic guild of the Ice Moon Empire, shouldn't the interests of the empire be its first priority? Why was it that in the rules, the first rule was to unconditionally obey the orders of the Magic Union? Understanding it from this point of view, it felt very strange. Could it be that the Magic Union would go against the Empire when their own interests were threatened? Li Hua continued. Third, after becoming a magician of the Magic Guild, if the Magic Guild needs you to hold any position, you must obey the orders of the Magic Guild. Of course, in your current situation, the Magic Guild can't arrange any position for you. The most important thing for you now is to work hard to improve your magic cultivation and strive to reach the realm of Magic Shooter as soon as possible. Once you become a Magic Shooter, you will have a great say in the Magic Guild, and will be awarded the honor of being an elder of the Magic Guild. Nian Bing gathered her thoughts and nodded. She said, I will definitely obey the orders of the Magic Guild. Is there anything else? Li Hua said indifferently, these 3 rules are the most important. As for the other small rules, they don't matter. When you reach the realm of Magic Shooter, the Magic Guild will naturally give you more rights. Of course, you will also know more about the affairs of the Magic Guild. Now it seems that on the whole continent, the 5 great empires have their own Magic Guild. Because of the existence of the Ice God Tower, our Ice Moon Empire has always been regarded as the most powerful one among the 5 great empires. However, they don't know that our Magic Guild and the symbol of the empire, the Ice God Tower, are not in the same field of magicians. Although there are hundreds of ice magicians in the Ice God Tower, they only obey the orders of the priests of the Ice Moon Empire. If we don't count them, among the 5 great empires, the Magic Guild of the Ice Moon Empire is the weakest. In the Magic Guild, there is a total of 1 magician, 8 elders of the Magic Shooter level, and a total of 39 great magicians including you. The rest of the low-level magicians are just over 1,000. Our overall strength is much weaker than that of the Ice God Tower. The other 4 great empires have at least 2 magicians, especially the Huarong Empire, which has 3 fire magicians. It is said that the oldest fire magician, Prince Rong of the Huarong Empire, is extremely close to the level of a divine magician. Therefore, in order to prevent our Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild from falling, you must work harder in your cultivation. The more powerful you are, the more advantageous it is for the Magic Guild and even for the Empire. Do you understand? When Nian Bing heard the name Prince Rong, the muscles on his face couldn't help but twitch. How could he not know that the Huarong Empire's Magic Guild was very powerful? That was his hometown. Back then, if Prince Rong hadn't sent a large number of magicians to hunt them down, he and his father wouldn't have had to flee the entire continent like stray dogs. In the end, his father made the decision to go to the Ice God Tower to rescue his mother, but his father was also trapped. The Huarong Empire, Prince Rong, these were the deepest pain in Nian Bing's heart. Nian Bing, what are you thinking? Are you okay? Li Hua called out with some dissatisfaction. Nian Bing came back to his senses and hurriedly said, I'm sorry, I was thinking that if the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild could one day reach the level of the Huarong Empire's Magic Guild, I'm afraid our status in the Ice Moon Empire would be no worse than that of the Ice God Tower. Li Hua sighed and said, this is just a wish. It's easier said than done. It takes a lot of time to cultivate an outstanding magician, and the number of true geniuses is pitifully small. Now, the number of people who are willing to cultivate magic is getting fewer and fewer. Compared to magic, martial arts are much easier to learn. Aside from the large-scale destruction and long-range attacks, martial arts are not inferior to magic in any way. I really wonder if this ancient cultivation method of magic will still exist on the continent after a few hundred years. The ice sorcerer at the side frowned slightly and said in a low voice, Li Hua, you talk too much. Since the ceremony is over, let's end it here. Li Hua came back to his senses and hurriedly said, Oh right, I'm really old and muddle-headed. Nian Bing, the ceremony is completely over. The 2 of you can go meditate. Nianbing, I heard from Shi Jiao and Ling that you want to learn more ice magic spells. Come with me, I'll take you to the library of the Union. There are things you need there. Hearing this, Nianbing couldn't help but be overjoyed. This was what he wanted most. He hurriedly agreed and followed Li Hua out of the hall where the ceremony was held. When he passed by the ice sorcerer, a weak voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Boy, when everything is over, come to my room to find me. I live in the westernmost room of the Union's dormitory. Remember, you must come, understand? Nianbing's heart moved. At this time, of course, he couldn't answer. He just silently nodded behind Li Hua and followed him out. It was the first time he had seen the ice sorcerer. Why did he want to see him alone? Was there a purpose? Forget it. Now that he was a member of the Ice Moon Empire's Magicians' Union, he believed that the ice sorcerer wouldn't dare to mess around. First, he would go to the library to learn something useful to him. Under the guidance of Li Hua, Nianbing followed him around the tall building where the ceremony hall was located. They walked to the back of the Magicians' Union. It was really big, and the back was a different world. One after another, tall buildings were closely connected. Although the buildings looked very grand, for some reason they gave people a feeling of oppression. As they walked, Li Hua said to Nianbing, I'll arrange a dormitory for you later. You can live here. This is a right that only magicians above the level of great magician have. Nianbing's heart sank and said, Sorcerer Li Hua, can I still go outside? Li Hua smiled and said, Of course you can. In the Union, unless there is a special order, no one will restrict your freedom. You can go in and out freely, and you can also travel outside. The room I'm referring to is a permanent room arranged for you. You can live here whenever you come back. However, I suggest that you should practice more and improve your magic power as soon as possible. I'm looking forward to seeing when you can break through the realm of sorcerer. Come, we've arrived at the library. He led Nianbing into a small building that looked inconspicuous. The small building was very clean. From the outside it seemed that there were 4 floors. However, each floor was not very high, so it didn't look conspicuous from the outside. Li Hua smiled and said, This is the place. This library has a total of 4 floors. Many of the materials here are already unique on the continent. Therefore, you can read here, but you can't take any materials away, especially the 3rd and 4th floors. Oh right, you can't enter the 4th floor. Let me give you an introduction. In the library, according to the magician's level, the materials stored here are different on each floor. For example, the 1st floor is more suitable for beginner and intermediate magicians. The 2nd floor is suitable for senior magicians and great magicians. The 3rd floor requires the strength of a sorcerer to enter. As for the highest floor, although it is the smallest, it records many lost high-level magic. Only those who have reached the realm of Archmage can enter and read it. At the same time, they also need the approval of the president. Although the president has never seen you, he has a very deep impression of you. He specifically told me that because your control of magic is close to the realm of sorcerer, you can go to the 3rd floor to read magic books. That way you can learn more things. Even if you go out to practice in the future, your strength won't be affected by the lack of spells. Well, you can read here by yourself. After a while, the president will be back. At that time, he should want to talk to you. If there is anything you don't understand from reading here, you can also ask me or the previous ice sorcerer, Warren. His level of magic is more profound than mine. He is the 4th elder of the Union. Nianbing looked at the rows of bookshelves on both sides. She couldn't help but feel an impulse. For a magician, this was definitely a treasure trove. The books here were of course not as simple as magic spells. Just the records of magic and the notes left by past magicians were precious enough. Teacher Li Hua, thank you so much. Can I call you that? Li Hua smiled and said, Of course you can. Watching you young people gradually grow up, I really feel that I am getting older and older. Now, I only hope that when I die, I can see our Ice Moon Empire's magicians' union become even more powerful. And all of this depends on you young people. If you have the chance, you can interact more with Ling. She's the same as you, a great ice magician. Although she's a bit weaker than you in terms of magic power and control, she's very smart. She often has her own unique views on magic. If you can interact more often, it'll be a good thing for anyone. Nian Bing nodded and said, I know. Thank you, Teacher Li Hua. Li Hua sighed and said, You know that the city has been sealed these few days, but I'm afraid you don't know the reason. I can see that you are an honest and good child. When the president comes back, he will interrogate you. You just need to answer truthfully. Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. He asked, What's going on, Master Lizzie? I am really curious. Why would the city be sealed? This shouldn't be good for Ice Snow City. Just the fact that the merchants who came from afar can't enter the city is a big problem. Li Hua sighed and said, That can't be helped. Who told him to have so much power? Nian Bing asked, Then what happened? Can you tell me? Li Hua glanced at Nian Bing and said, Well, it's not a big secret anyway. A few days ago, the city was sealed because a big figure came to Ice Snow City. She came to investigate the whereabouts of an item. That item is said to be very precious. It is a magic item. I'm afraid it is close to the level of a divine weapon. I heard from the president that it is called something like the Stone of Ice Snow Goddess. Even if Nian Bing's mind was stable, when she suddenly heard the words, Stone of Ice Snow Goddess, she couldn't help but be shocked. Her expression changed greatly. Fortunately, at this time, he was behind Li Hua. Li Hua couldn't see his expression. Nian Bing's heart beat obviously faster. She asked tentatively, Stone of Ice Snow Goddess? Then the person who came should be from the Ice God Tower. That stone must be something from the Ice God Tower, right? Li Hua turned around and looked at Nian Bing. At this time, Nian Bing had regained her composure. From her face, other than pretending to be surprised, nothing could be seen. Yes, it is something from the Ice God Tower. The reason why it is precious is because the person who came this time is the symbol of our Ice Moon Empire, the state preceptor, the Ice Goddess Priestess. Nian Bing was shocked. When he was 10 years old, he had seen the Ice Goddess Priestess once. He remembered very clearly that with the strength of a fire magic shooter, his father was like a child in front of the Ice Goddess Priestess. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist. If it wasn't for his mother risking her life to save him, his father would have died in the first attack of the Ice Goddess Priestess. At this time, when he heard the name that he hated the most in his heart trembled. He finally understood that the martial law in Ice Snow City was because of him. However, how did the Ice Goddess Priestess find out that the Stone of Ice Snow was in Ice Snow City? Could it be that when he used the Morning Dew dagger, he released the aura of the Stone of Ice Snow Goddess and lured her in? Yes, it must be like that. After figuring this out, Nian Bing's back couldn't help but be soaked in sweat. If he had accidentally used the Morning Dew dagger during the 3 days of lockdown, he was afraid that he would have fallen into the hands of the Ice Goddess Priestess by now. It seemed that he still needed to keep a low profile. Before he mastered magic, he definitely couldn't let that woman discover his existence. Li Hua looked at Nian Bing, who was lost in thought, and smiled. Everything is already in the past. You don't have to think too much about it. I think that with the strength of the Ice Goddess Priestess, as long as that thing really does exist, it wouldn't be difficult to take it back. Alright, you stay here and read the book while waiting for the president. I'll go back first. Nian Bing, you have to remember that as a mage, you have to meditate all the time in order to better improve your strength. I've already activated the restrictions on the first 3 floors of the library. Don't ever try to enter the 4th floor. Otherwise, the magic traps there can easily take your life. After Li Hua left, Nian Bing was the only one left in the huge library. Nian Bing wasn't in a hurry to find what he needed. He stood in place and pondered, trying to clear his mind. The appearance of the ice goddess priestess had thrown his mind into chaos. He only wanted to do one thing now, and that was to leave Ice City immediately. Since the ice goddess priestess had already noticed this place, who knew when she would come again? When that time came, would he still be so lucky? Nian Bing wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid of the ice goddess priestess. Even if he had to fight the ice goddess priestess head-on, he would still dare to make a move against her. However, he was a rational person. He knew that if he did that, he would only sacrifice himself in vain. Therefore, he told himself that he had to be calm. Only by being rational could he achieve his dreams. Leave this place? It seemed that this was his best choice. However, the Zhengyang saber hadn't been completed yet. He couldn't leave yet. 1 month. There was still 1 month left. He hoped that nothing would happen in this 1 month. At this moment, Nian Bing had already decided what he would do for the next month. He carefully kept the morning dew dagger. He had decided that before he left Ice City, he would never use this dagger again. At the same time, it was also the sigh of the ice goddess. After thinking through all this, Nian Bing's mood improved a lot. Since the lockdown had ended, it meant that the ice goddess priestess had left. As long as he was careful, it wouldn't be difficult to deal with this 1 month. Thinking of this, a cold smile appeared on his face. On the first floor, he started to look for what he needed. When Nian Bing started to learn magic, he was already wandering on the mainland with his father. Although his father's knowledge was profound, he was still young at that time. Other than some important things, he couldn't remember much. He knew that what he needed most now was theoretical knowledge. Only with a good foundation could he learn better and become stronger faster. Therefore, he didn't rush to the 3rd floor. Instead, he started from the 1st floor. First, he picked up a book called Detailed Explanation of Magic Theory. Chapter 16. During the reading process, time always passed very quickly. There were many windows in the library, attracting the light from the outside. Nian Bing leaned against the bookshelf, constantly reading the things that interested him. Although the 1st floor was filled with the most basic of magicians, but he seemed to have found a treasure. Some of the situations that he couldn't understand in the past were answered by the books one by one. When Cha Ji first taught him culinary skills, he had taught him that no matter what he learned, the foundation was the most important part. This principle, in the process of learning culinary skills later, Nian Bing had a very deep understanding of it. The sky outside gradually darkened, and the magic lamps in the library automatically lit up. They were powered by the lowest grade of magic stones. Nian Bing didn't have any intention of leaving. With the help of the bright light, he began to read the 4th book that he read today. At this time, the library door suddenly opened. Although Nian Bing was reading, he was very alert. He subconsciously raised his head to look at the door. The person who appeared was not the president of the Magicians' Guild that he expected, but someone he knew, the great ice magician, Long Ling. She was also the only daughter of the president of the Magicians' Guild. "It's you." Nian Bing looked at Long Ling with some surprise. He smiled slightly and greeted her. Long Ling looked at him with the same surprise and said, "Why are you here? With your magic cultivation, you don't need to read the books on the 1st floor." As she said that, she closed the door. She was also wearing a light blue ice magic robe. She gently looked at Nian Bing with a trace of a smile in her eyes. Although Nian Bing looked at her, because he had been reading the book, his eyes were still showing a look of concentration. Coupled with his handsome face, Long Ling suddenly felt a trace of strangeness in her heart. Nian Bing stood up, waved the book in his hand and said with a smile, "There's no other way. I don't have a good foundation in magic, so it's good for me to learn more about the basics. I'm not good enough for spells." Long Ling walked to Nian Bing's side. The faint fragrance from her body made Ling Nian feel refreshed. Long Ling was not short either. She was only slightly shorter than Xue Jing. She looked up at Nian Bing and said, "You are really eager to learn. I heard from Uncle Li that you haven't left since noon." It's already time for dinner. Let's go and have dinner with me. There were so many books here that they couldn't be finished in a day or two. You still have time. Aren't you hungry? At the mention of hunger, Nian Bing was indeed a little hungry. He had not eaten since lunch. He carefully put the book back and said, "Then let's go." "Miss Long Ling, is the president back?" he asked tentatively. Long Ling glanced at him and said, "Why are you always so polite? Now that you have joined the union, we will be a family in the future. Call me Ling or Miss, it sounds so awkward. If there is a chance, I want to ask you more about magic control. I feel that I have worked hard enough, but in terms of magic control, I am still far behind you." Nian Bing had a good impression of Long Ling. No matter what, her voice was always soft and gentle. It was very comfortable to listen to. "All right, Ling, then you lead the way. This place is really big." The two left the library. Long Ling led Nian Bing to the north. As they walked, she said to Nian Bing, "Father came back a long time ago. But at noon, he drank too much wine with Lord Marquis and Uncle Shui. When he came back, he fell asleep. He slept for a long time before waking up. When he heard that you were already here, he asked me to call you. Wine is really a waste of time. Nian Bing, do you know how to drink?" "Wine." Hearing this word, Nian Bing suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. Of course he knew how to drink. He even knew how to brew wine. As a chef, as long as it had to do with eating and drinking, the ghost chef had taught him everything. "I can drink a little, but I don't usually drink." When they were in the peach blossom forest, it was always him who accompanied Cha Ji to drink. Cha Ji's alcohol tolerance was very good. So, under Cha Ji's pressure, his alcohol tolerance was also not bad. However, in order to maintain his good taste, Cha Ji usually only let him drink once every 1 or 2 months. So, Nian Bing was not addicted to alcohol. Long Ling smiled and said, "It's better to drink less. Wine is not a good thing. Drinking too much is easy to get into trouble." Together with Long Ling, Nian Bing felt very relaxed. The two chatted for a while, and had already arrived at a building with a spire not far from the library. Long Ling brought Nian Bing directly to the 2nd floor. "We usually eat here. Father, other than me, only has one disciple, Jiu, whom you met last time. The other magicians usually eat in their own rooms. Eat first. After eating, I will bring you to a place to rest. In the future, if you want to stay or go out, it will be convenient." The two entered a room on the left side of the 2nd floor. As soon as they entered, Nian Bing saw Jiu. Jiu looked at Nian Bing and frowned slightly. There was a person sitting above him. He was wearing a green magician's robe and looked to be in his 40s or 50s. From the symbol on the chest of his magician's robe, it was easy to recognize that this person was the only magician in the Ice Moon Empire's Magicians' Union. At the same time, he was also the president of the union. Nian Bing looked at Long Ji. At the same time, Long Ji was also sizing him up. Looking at Nian Bing's handsome face and feeling his restrained aura, Long Ji couldn't help but secretly nod. He was good at judging people. Just from the surface, he could see that Nian Bing was much stronger than his disciple. Although he was younger than his daughter, his aura was clearly steady. Adding on the fact that he was the youngest Grand Magician, Long Ji couldn't help but have a good impression of him. Nian Bing walked to the front of the table and respectfully bowed to Long Ji. "Nian Bing greets the president." Long Ji pointed to the seat beside him and said, "Please sit. Welcome to the union." His tone was very calm, but it gave Nian Bing a trace of invisible pressure. Nian Bing's mind had already completely retracted from receiving the knowledge. Although he was polite on the surface, his heart was always vigilant. He walked to Long Ji's side and sat down, trying his best to remain calm. Long Ling didn't sit next to Jiu. Instead, she sat next to Nian Bing and said with a smile, "Father, I'm hungry. Let's eat." The round table was already filled with food and the aroma filled the air. Long Ji smiled and said, everyone is here. Come, Nianbing, you have to eat more. In the future, if you have nothing to do, you can eat with us. As he said that, he took the lead and picked up his chopstick. Shi Jiu glanced at Nianbing, his eyes revealing a trace of sinister light. Although it was just a flash, Nianbing, who was always vigilant, still noticed it. Her heart moved, and she subconsciously looked at Long Ling beside her. As smart as she was, how could she not understand Shi Jiu's meaning? Long Ji didn't eat much. His aura was always locked on Nianbing. Seeing him look at his daughter, he couldn't help but smile and say, Nianbing, you and Ling are both ice magicians. In the future, if you have the chance, you can learn from each other and improve together. Where are you from? How long have you been practicing magic? Nianbing thought in her heart that this was it. She hurriedly put down the chopsticks in her hand and respectfully said, I am from the Huarong Empire, but I left with my parents when I was young. I have been practicing magic for about 10 years. However, I have never had a master to guide me. I have been practicing magic by myself. I have made a fool of myself. Long Ji smiled indifferently and said, If you can reach your level by just fumbling around, then us old fellows should really retire. Sorcerer Leo rarely praises people, but he has praised you very much. Since you have already joined the guild, you don't have to be so restrained. From now on, we are all family. If you have any questions, you can ask any of the elders in the guild for guidance, or you can look for me directly. Nianbing looked at Long Ji, her mind racing. He was indeed the president of the Magician Guild. His sharpness was completely restrained. Compared to him, Shi Jiu was simply a small insect. Thank you, President. I spent the whole afternoon in the library today. It is really a sea of magic. I think, just the knowledge there is enough for me to study for a long time. If there is anything I do not understand, I will definitely ask you for guidance. Long Ji pointed to the dishes on the table and said, Don't just talk, eat more. Nianbing maintained vigilance in her heart. She could not taste the dishes at all. Long Ji only asked some inconspicuous questions, but Nianbing was very clear that as long as she answered slightly wrong, she would immediately be in big trouble. Shi Jiu and Long Ling cast their gazes on him from time to time. Long Ling's gaze was mostly curious, but Shi Jiu's gaze was a combination of jealousy and resentment. Nianbing, where have you been these few days when the city was sealed? Long Ji asked the crucial question. Nianbing thought to himself, You've already gotten the news from Li Hua, yet you're still asking me. Clearly, you don't trust me. The city has been sealed off for the past few days. As you know, I came from a small place and haven't seen much of the world. I don't know what happened either. I have a friend who lives in the city. She owns a blacksmith shop, so I stayed there for a few days. Blacksmith shop? I know most of the good blacksmith shops in the city. Which one is it? Long Ji did not give in at all. Although his tone was flat, his sharpness was revealed. Nianbing smiled and said, You definitely don't know where she is. It is a very small blacksmith shop. It is called the Smuggled Blacksmith Shop. Usually, there are very few customers. The competition in their industry is very fierce, and it is not easy to live there. Smuggled Blacksmith Shop? Hearing this name, Long Ling could not help but laugh. She laughed and said, With such a name, how can his business be good? You should really persuade him to change. Nianbing agreed and said, Yes. I also told her, but she is very stubborn. No matter what I said, she would not change. I can't do anything. I am not very familiar with her, so it is not good to say too much. Long Ji put down the chopsticks in his hand and said with a smile, All right, you guys eat. I drank a bit too much this afternoon. In addition, I am a bit tired from the past few days of sealing the city. I will go rest first. Ling or Shi Jiu, you guys take care of Nianbing. The dormitory has already been arranged for her. You guys can take her there. Nianbing, the union will not restrict your freedom, but I hope you can stay for a few more days and cultivate. Nianbing quickly nodded in agreement. He stood up and watched Long Ji leave. He knew that he had temporarily passed, but Long Ji would definitely send people to check the smuggled blacksmith shop. With Feng Nu's intelligence, there should not be any flaws. Thinking of this, his heart relaxed a bit. He finally had the mood to eat. The taste of the dishes on the table was very ordinary, but for him who was hungry, it was enough. Shijiu finally spoke for the first time. Nianbing, what plans do you have for the future? Do you want to stay in the Union and cultivate, or do you want to go out and gain experience? He emphasized the word experience. Nianbing put a mouthful of food into her mouth and said vaguely, I haven't thought about it yet. However, I will definitely stay in the library for a few more days. Let's talk about the future. Shijiu said with some disgust, You really have no manners. Don't you know that it is impolite to talk to people while eating? Nianbing knew that he was deliberately attacking her, but she did not care. Swallowing the food in her mouth, she said, I am really sorry. I came from a small place and do not understand these etiquette at all. In the future, I will need Big Brother Shijiu to teach me more. He put on a look of fear and trepidation, but in his heart, he was sneering. It was simply too easy to deal with a villain like Shijiu. Long Ling said, Senior brother, don't blame Nianbing. In the future, we will teach him more. Nianbing, eat more. One look and I can tell that your daily life is very tough. In the strange atmosphere, the meal finally ended. Shijiu would occasionally mock and ridicule Nianbing, but Long Ling would constantly speak up for him, making Shijiu even more jealous. On the other hand, Nianbing acted as if nothing had happened and ate heartily, filling her stomach without any reservation. Big Brother Shijiu, I am done eating. Look. Nianbing looked at Shijiu with an innocent expression. Long Ling stood up and said, Let's go, I will bring you there. The food in the Union is getting worse and worse. Nianbing, I will bring you to the Clear Breeze restaurant to eat some other day. The food there is delicious. Shijiu also stood up and looked at Long Ling with some infatuation. He said, Junior sister, you go back and rest. I will send Nianbing there. Long Ling did not insist. She smiled and said, Senior brother, then I will have to trouble you. Nianbing is new. If there is anything she does not understand, please teach her. Shijiu looked deeply at Nianbing and smiled at Long Ling. He said, Don't worry, junior sister, I will. Nianbing, let's go. Nianbing bid farewell to Long Ling and followed Shijiu out of the dining hall. Along the way, Shijiu did not say a word. He brought Nianbing to the magician's dormitory. The building that served as the dormitory was not big. Walking into the corridor, Nianbing observed carefully. There were about 50 rooms here. Just as the sorcerer said, only people with the cultivation of Grand Magician and above could arrange a place to stay here. Shijiu brought Nianbing to an important place in the corridor. He took out a silver key and opened the door. Turning around, he looked at Nianbing and said, It's here. Walking into the room, Nianbing looked around. There were 2 rooms inside and outside. The outer room was about 20 square meters. There was a 3-seater sofa and 2 single-seater sofas side by side. The room was very refreshing. The floor was made of wood, and when one walked in, it would make a light sound. At the entrance of the outer room was a washroom that was about 6 or 7 square meters. All the toiletries were available. The inner room was relatively smaller, about 10 square meters. The large bed looked very comfortable. The magic lamp in the room emitted a soft yellow light. This was indeed a comfortable place to live in. Shijiu closed the door behind him and walked to the sofa to sit down. There is hot water here for 24 hours. You can wash up at any time. You can eat in the dining room outside. It's not the one just now. When you enter the door, there is a large dining room on the right. That is the public canteen. Of course, you can also ask the servants to send food to your room to eat. If you need anything, you can just press the magic button on the wall. As he spoke, he pointed to a red button on the wall. Nianbing thought it was indeed worthy of being called the Magician's Guild. All the equipment was built with magic as the foundation. The treatment of a great magician like her was really not bad. Sergio pointed to the sofa at the side. Nian Bing said, "Sit down. I have a few words to say to you." Nian Bing of course knew what he wanted to say, but her face revealed a blank expression. She walked to the sofa next to Sergio and sat down. Sergio did not look at her and calmly said, "Nian Bing, after joining the guild, your identity is different. However, you are still a newcomer. It's best if you put all your energy into practicing magic. Don't think about anything else. Especially don't get close to people you shouldn't get close to. I have already lived here for 20 years. I am more familiar with everything than you. You better listen to this advice to avoid problems in the future." Nian Bing laughed in her heart, but her mouth said, "Big brother Sergio, what do you mean? I don't quite understand." "That's right, I still haven't thanked you for bringing me into the guild. If it wasn't for you and Miss Ling Er's help, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been so easy to join the guild." Sergio leaned on the back of the sofa and boasted shamelessly, "It's good that you know. In the guild, although I am not a sorcerer, I have a position close to a sorcerer. As for Ling Master has high expectations for her. She will put most of her energy into practicing. In the future, if you don't have anything to do, don't go looking for her. Do you understand? Ling and I grew up together. In the future, she will definitely be my wife. I don't want other men to get too close to her." Seeing that Nian Bing was a little stunned, Sergio finally couldn't help but speak the truth. Nian Bing suddenly said, "So it's like this. Only a person like Big Brother Sergio can match up to Miss Ling. Little brother congratulates the both of you first." Sergio's eyes revealed a trace of joy. The previous unhappiness immediately disappeared with Nian Bing's word. "You think so too?" Nian Bing said sincerely, "Of course. When I first met Big Brother Sergio and Miss Ling I knew that the both of you were a match made in heaven. Big Brother, don't worry. I only treat Miss Ling as an ordinary friend. With my humble background, it's impossible for me to have any excessive thoughts." Hearing Nian Bing's clarification, Sergio was immediately overjoyed. He smiled slightly and said, "Little brother, since you've already joined the guild, don't mention this identity anymore. With your character and looks, you'll definitely find a good partner in the future." With regards to Nian Bing's tactfulness, he couldn't be more satisfied. He immediately changed his name from Nian Bing to Little Brother. He was in a great mood. Nian Bing smiled and said, "In the future, Little Brother will have to rely on Big Brother's help in the guild. You must give Little Brother more pointers. In the future, if Big Brother has any problems, just say the word. As long as Little Brother can do it, it's my duty to do it." Sergio stood up and said, "Good. In the future, if there's anything you don't understand in the guild, just ask me. It's getting late, so I won't disturb your rest. From now on, we're brothers. I'll take my leave first." Sergio handed the key in his hand to Nian Bing. He also had his own little calculations. He knew that Nian Bing's magic level was higher than his. Since he didn't have the heart to Long Ling, having such a brother would naturally be beneficial to his position in the Ice Moon Empire's Magicians Guild in the future. Nian Bing stood up and sent Sergio to the door. She smiled and said, "Big brother, you should rest early too. Little brother won't send you off." Sergio suddenly smiled mysteriously and said in a low voice, "I heard from Teacher Li Hua that you are very interested in the information in the library. Let me tell you, in fact, the first 3 floors only have some ordinary magic information. Only the 4th floor has the secrets of our guild. It's just that there's a very powerful magic restriction there. Even the sorcerers in the guild can't enter it." Nian Bing's heart moved and said, "Big brother, in that case, could it be that you have a way to go in?" Sergio said confidently, "Didn't I tell you just now? My position in the guild is special. I grew up with Master since I was young. I once entered the 4th floor with Ling and Master. After all, we are Master's disciples and will more or less receive some care. However, this is a secret. You can't tell anyone. If there's a chance in the future, maybe I can bring you in to take a look. It's just that the various records inside are abnormally difficult to understand. In fact, there's not much use in going in. The meditation method that Ling, and I are using now is obtained from the information there. Our cultivation is much faster than the average person. In the future, we will be a family. If there are benefits, Big Brother will definitely not forget you. After saying this, Nianbing smiled mysteriously and turned to leave. After he left, Nianbing also smiled. Is he trying to bribe me? It seems that this Shurjiu also has the idea of forming a clique. This is good. I'm just afraid that he's too upright. In the future, as long as I tempt him, there won't be any secrets in the 4th floor of the library. I wonder what kind of special magic records there are? Thinking of this, Nianbing's heart couldn't help but burn. If she could learn more powerful magic, going to the Ice God Tower wouldn't just be a dream. Walking to the inner room, Nianbing carefully took out her morning dew dagger from her bosom and hid it under the mattress. Looking around, she took out her newly obtained icicle staff and walked out of the room. Let's go back to the Cool Breeze study first. After being out for so long, she hoped that Uncle Li wouldn't be suspicious. She also hoped that her luck wouldn't be so bad and that Ming Yuan wouldn't find trouble with her. Thinking that this was very likely to happen, Nianbing hurriedly left the Magician's Guild as quickly as possible. After confirming that no one was following her, she took off her magic robe and bought a square cloth from the street. She wrapped the magic robe and icicle staff in it and then used her fastest speed to return to the Cool Breeze study. Just as she entered the back door, she immediately saw a slender red figure. Her whole body suddenly stiffened. Miss, why are you here? The surprise this time was definitely not fake. Xuejing turned around and looked at Nianbing with an unkind expression. Hello. I heard from Uncle Li that you left at noon. Why are you only back now? Don't tell me that you went out to have fun. Nianbing smiled bitterly and said, Miss, look at me. I'm just a poor boy. What can I do? Did you come to the backyard to practice your swordsmanship again today? Xuejing snorted and said, I knew that you wouldn't dare to go out to have fun. Even if you want to have fun, you need to have the ability. You don't have that ability. I looked for you a few times today, but you weren't here. I came here specially to wait for you. I wanted to see when you would come back. Forget it. You came back not too late. I'll forgive you this time. However, you have to be careful in the future. Nianbing pointed to the bag in his hand that contained the magic staff and magic robe and said, Miss, I actually only went to buy some clothes. This is the first time I came to such a big city. I went out to buy some coarse clothes. My luck was good and I came across a sale. 2 copper coins each. It's worth a lot. Do you want to take a look? Xuejing said with some disgust. What are you looking at? It's just a few tattered clothes. Nianbing sighed in relief. He secretly thought that his method of retreating after advancing was the right one. The reason why he explained the bag was because Xuejing's gaze fell on it. Xuejing saw that Nianbing was silent. The expression in her eyes softened a little and said, Your face healed quite quickly. It seems that your skin is thick enough. Nianbing touched his face. If it wasn't for the rank 1 healing technique, he was afraid that it wouldn't have healed in a week. She hit him and said that he was thick-skinned. Women, really, Xuejing said. Nianbing, I have something to ask you for help with. I don't know if you're willing. Nianbing was stunned and said, Miss, I'm just an ordinary servant chopping firewood. How can I help you? Xuejing snorted and said, Don't worry about that. You just have to say if you're willing or not. How could Nianbing say no? He didn't plan to leave the Cool Breeze study at this time, so he could only helplessly nod and say, It's my honor to be able to help Mississippi. Xuejing's eyes lit up. She was already beautiful, but now she looked even more lively. Her gaze seemed to say that it's good that you know. Okay, then it's a deal. I need to borrow your face for a bit. Nian Bing was shocked. Miss, you, Xuejing said with disdain. Look at you. You don't have the slightest bit of manliness. What are you afraid of? It's not like I'm going to eat you. At this point, her charming face suddenly blushed a little. She lowered her voice and continued, Do you still remember what I told you in the pavilion last time? The reason why I want your help is related to that. Nian Bing frowned and said, Are you talking about that person you like? How can I help you with that? Xuejing snorted and said, In any case, you've already agreed. If you do this well, I'll ask Uncle Ming Yuan to teach you a few more tricks. You'll be able to survive better in the future. Nian Bing sighed and said, Miss, you still have to tell me what you want me to do. Xuejing walked to Nian Bing's side and said in a low voice, I want you to be my boyfriend. Smelling the virgin fragrance on Xuejing's body and hearing the soft and gentle words, Nian Bing couldn't help but feel as if he was on cloud nine. He forced himself to control his emotions and said, Miss, I'm afraid that's not possible. You're the miss, and I'm just a servant. Xuejing raised her hand and hit Nian Bing's shoulder. She said in a slightly annoyed tone, Listen to me, okay? You're really a toad lusting after a swan's meat. Do you really think that I want you to be my boyfriend? I just want you to help me test that guy and see if he's interested in me. Tomorrow night, I'll ask you to attend a banquet with me. Your appearance is not bad, so I said that I wanted to borrow your face. At that time, that person will also come. I'll act more intimate with you. If he has me in his heart, he'll definitely feel jealous. At that time, Nian Bing's heart turned cold for no reason. Was a toad lusting after a swan's meat? Xuejing, you're underestimating me, Nian Bing. I might not even like a girl like you. I'll remember this sentence. One day I'll repay you. The misfortune of her childhood made Nian Bing inevitably extreme. She looked coldly at Xuejing. At this time, she lowered her head, as if thinking about a beautiful future. Miss, although my appearance is not bad, my status is low. I'm afraid this is not appropriate. Nian Bing deliberately emphasized the word low. Xuejing did not hear the change in Nian Bing's tone. She said impatiently, I have my own plans. Since I asked you to come with me, I naturally won't let you lose face. That would be embarrassing me. This kind of banquet of the upper class in Ice Snow City is not something that anyone can attend. Perhaps you'll only see it once in your life. You should thank me, but you're still refusing. Tomorrow, I'll prepare a magic robe for you to disguise as a magician. I'll arrange the other things. You don't have to worry about it. Tomorrow, you don't have to work. I'll look for you in the morning and teach you some necessary etiquette. At the banquet, you don't have to do anything. You just need to follow me. Do you understand? Nian Bing's heart became colder. She nodded and said, Well, I'll do my best to satisfy you. Xuejing smiled and said, Don't worry. I'll definitely keep my word. As long as you do well, I'll naturally fulfill my promise when you come back. That's it. You should rest early. Tomorrow you'll be more energetic. After saying that, the red figure floated up. After a few flashes in the air, she disappeared in the blink of an eye. Nian Bing looked coldly at the direction where Xuejing left. She said to herself, Seeing that you once helped me out, I won't bicker with you. But this is the last time. No one can insult me without paying the price. Suddenly, she thought of something and patted her forehead. How could I forget about the appointment? It seems that I have to go back to the Magicians' Union. It's time to keep the appointment. I don't know what kind of tricks that ice sorcerer will play. Chapter 17. After retrieving all his belongings from the woodshed, Nian Bing walked out from the back door. A breeze was blowing on the street. Breathing in the fresh and cold air, Nian Bing felt a little better. Looking at the bustling crowd on the street and the lit lights, he suddenly felt a little lost. He had just entered society, and he had already encountered so many things. Although he had not made the wrong choice so far, should he still continue to stay in Ice City? Yes, he must stay. Even if the culinary skills of the Breeze restaurant did not interest him, the library of the Sorcerer Guild and the Zhengyang saber that Feng knew was currently making were all things that he needed. 1 month. Let's stay for 1 more month. Xuejing, I might surprise you tomorrow night. I just want you to know that you should not underestimate anyone. Although I will not take revenge on you, I will at least teach you a lesson for your unruly temper. When Yan Bing returned to the Sorcerer Guild, it was already late at night. Before entering the guild, he changed into his magic robe again. With the symbol of an archmage on his chest and his badge, the night guards would not stop him at all. Yan Bing did not go directly to the ice sorcerer. Instead, he returned to his room first. Seeing that the morning dew dagger was still under the mattress, he found a place to hide the things that he had brought with him. When he opened the door again, he first looked around. The corridor was empty, and there was not a single person. He then walked out of the room, closed the door, and walked to the westernmost room. During the process of walking, Nian Bing restrained his mental strength and controlled the vortex of ice and fire in his body to rotate quickly. With ice on the outside and fire on the inside, he concealed the aura of the fire element magic. This was his biggest secret. From the outside, there was nothing special about the westernmost room. It was the same as the room that he lived in. He raised his hand and knocked on the door a few times. "Hello, I am Nian Bing." The door opened silently, and an old and deep voice came from inside. "Come in." As soon as she entered the room, Nian Bing immediately felt a wave of coldness hit her in the face. She subconsciously raised the icicle staff in her hand and instantly cast a level 2 ice curtain spell in front of her. The room suddenly lit up. It was also a foyer, but it was much bigger than the one he had just been in. On the sofa, the ice magic shooter looked at him and nodded approvingly. He said, "Not bad, your reaction is quite fast. No wonder Li Hua admires you so much. However, as a magic shooter, this is not enough to defend yourself. If the other party is a martial arts master, in the case of a sudden sneak attack, you have no way to resist. This kind of low-level magic is useless." Nian Bing was stunned for a moment before she nodded and said, "Thank you for your guidance, senior." The ice magic shooter pointed to the sofa beside him and said, "Sit down. I called you here because I have a few words to say to you. As for whether you can listen to me or not, it depends on you." Nian Bing sat on the sofa and pretended to be defenseless. In front of a magic shooter, even if he was defenseless, there was no use. Moreover, he firmly believed that this ice magic shooter did not mean any harm to him, at least for now. With a flash of light, a transparent gem suddenly appeared in the ice magic shooter's hand. The gem shone with a colorful light. Before Nian Bing could react, he clearly felt a strong magic power enveloping his body. Strangely, this magic power was not offensive. The light receded, and the translucent gem shimmering with rainbow-colored light returned to normal. The ice elemental archmage seemed to heave a sigh of relief, and calmly said, "My name is Bing Jing. You can call me Teacher Bing Jing from now on. Nian Bing, since you're practicing ice magic, why did you come to the guild instead of going to the Ice God Tower? As a mage, I think you should know that the place that all ice mages yearn for the most is the Ice God Tower. Only there can you learn the most profound ice magic. I don't need to say more about this." Nian Bing was shocked, but he tried to keep calm and said, "Frankly speaking, Teacher Bing Jing, I don't like places like the Ice God Tower. I feel that the restrictive nature of that place is too strong. I don't know why, but the Ice God Tower always gives me a very overbearing feeling. And I just want to practice magic peacefully. I don't want to get involved in any fights, and I don't want to become a tool of the Ice God Tower. So..." Bing Jing suddenly stood up, his eyes flashing with cold light. "Nian Bing, do you know who you are talking to? I'll be honest with you. I am one of the ice priests of the Ice God Tower. Now I'll give you a chance to choose. Leave here and go north to join the Ice God Tower. With my introduction, I think you will be put in an important position in the Ice God Tower. Nian Bing sneered in her heart. She also stood up, frowned, and said righteously, I'm sorry, Teacher Bing Jing. Since I have joined the Union, I am a member of the Union. Although the Ice God Tower is good, it is not a place that I want to go. Please forgive me. If there is nothing else, I will leave first. Finished speaking, she turned and walked out. Bing Jing's whole body emitted cold light, and the temperature in the room dropped sharply. Wrapped in frost, he said coldly, Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? Nian Bing turned around and looked at Bing Jing without backing down. Teacher Bing Jing, I don't think you will do that. This is the Magician Union, not your Ice God Tower. I really don't understand. The Ice God Tower and the Magician Union are both pillars of the Ice Moon Empire. Why do you hate each other? No matter what, I will not join the Ice God Tower. Speaking of this, Nian Bing's eyes couldn't help but show a trace of resolute coldness. This was not an act. Although the hatred for the Ice God Tower had been buried in the deepest part of her heart, she would occasionally reveal it unintentionally. Bing Jing withdrew his cold aura and smiled. At this time, the inner door suddenly opened and two people walked out. It was the president of the Union, Long Ji, and the water archmage, Li Hua. Bing Jing said with a smile, President, you can rest assured this time. This child is not the one the Ice God Tower is looking for. At the same time, he is not someone who will betray the Union. Long Ji nodded with satisfaction. Looking at Nian Bing's puzzled face, he said, Child, this time it is our fault. You have just joined the Union, so we must test you. Now that everything has been proven, I hope you can understand. Don't worry, you are so loyal to the Union, so the Union will not treat you badly. Well, you can go now. Nian Bing blankly bowed to the three people and left the room. Long Ji turned his head to Li Hua and said, What do you think? Li Hua smiled and said, What else can I think? I already told you that this child is not very scheming, and he is wholeheartedly interested in learning. In the future, he will become a powerful magician. Long Ji sighed softly and said, From the looks of it, that is indeed the case. Either he is really inexperienced in the world, or he is too scheming. Even I can't see through his true thoughts. Bing Jing handed the glowing 7-colored gem to Long Ji and said, President, I think you are thinking too much. Even if he is very scheming, it is not necessarily bad for us. As long as he is not the one the Ice God Tower is looking for, and is not the so-called Masha, it is enough. In the future, we just need to observe him more. Oh right, sure Gio, that child seemed to have stayed in his room for a while. Then Nian Bing went out again and came back. I don't know what he went to do. I originally wanted to send someone to follow him, but I was afraid that he would find out. This time, he was gone for a full 2 hours. Long Ji said helplessly, It doesn't matter what he went to do. I think he went back to the hotel to get his luggage. However, we did not wait for 2 hours in vain, did we? Although it was not completely proven, at least a part of it was proven. Actually, he spent the whole afternoon in the library reading all kinds of basic information. I already did not suspect him. When I came back from the cool breeze room, I looked at him through the window. He was really focused, and it was not something that could be faked. Sergio's nature is not bad, and his talent is not bad. It is just that he is a little too self-righteous. If my guess is not wrong, he must have found Nian Bing for Ling. To be honest, in the future, I would rather give Ling to this Nian Bing than let Ling marry him. No matter how scheming Nian Bing is, he is much better than little Gio. Li Ji laughed and said, We don't need to care about the matters of these little children. Let them develop. President, you are tired today. Let's go back and rest. When Nian Bing came out of Bing Jing's room, he immediately felt that his whole body was drenched in cold sweat. That 7-colored gem was obviously a magic item used for detection. Fortunately, he did not bring the morning dew dagger with him. His previous performance was all an act. Bing Jing could not deceive him. When he was in the Ice God Tower, Nian Bing had seen all 12 ice priests. The faces of those people were deeply imprinted in his mind. How could he forget? It was also thanks to this that they were able to escape the Magicians' Guild's final test. Returning to his own room, he retrieved the morning dew dagger and put it in his pocket. He took off his magician's robe and placed it on the bed with the icicle staff. Only then did he leave the Magicians' Guild. Perhaps tonight would be his last night in the Breeze Cottage. Tomorrow it would be a new beginning. A new beginning from the Magicians' Guild. Early in the morning, when the sun rose from the east, Nianbing had already woken up from his meditation. He hadn't read the books on basic magic for nothing. After the night's practice, he had a much deeper understanding of magic. Even though he still didn't understand the principle of ice and fire being of the same origin, it was much easier for him to control magic. What he needed the most now wasn't to increase his magic power, but to fuse his mental strength with the magic power of ice and fire that he already had. Only then would he be able to unleash greater power. Nianbing firmly believed that once he completely fused his ice and fire powers, the magic power he would produce wouldn't be as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. A dual-element magician of ice and fire, he should be the #1 person on the continent. Why couldn't he create his own magic? Walking out of his room, Nianbing saw that Uncle Li was still asleep. Looking at the vast Breeze Cottage, Nianbing could not help but sigh. It seemed that there was nothing for him to pursue in terms of culinary skills. First-rate culinary skills and second-rate magic. That was the portrayal of his current situation. Perhaps the Magicians' Guild was more suitable for him. At least there, he could learn a lot of useful things. While thinking, Nianbing walked to the firewood pile, picked up the hatchet, and chopped down with lightning speed. Although each piece of firewood only needed to be chopped into 8 pieces, he was still very focused. This method of concentration was something he had long been used to. The amount of firewood gradually increased. Nianbing had always believed that when a person did something, he should finish what he started. Although he had already decided to leave, he still had to complete his last day's work. The hatchet in his hand seemed to be alive. There was almost no shadow of the hatchet. He only needed to use his left hand to continuously take the firewood from the side, and it would naturally split into 8 pieces. Uncle Li walked out of his room. When he saw Nianbing chopping firewood with his back facing him, he couldn't help but smile. He thought to himself, this young man is really diligent. He's working so early in the morning. When he walked to Nianbing's side and saw the hatchet's shadow, Uncle Li could not help but be stunned. What was originally a day's work, Nianbing had already completed 70% of it. Nianbing knew that Uncle Li had come to his side, but he did not stop. He was still chopping firewood. While chopping, he calmly said, Uncle Li, chopping firewood is not just a job. If you focus on it, you will naturally achieve unexpected results. Firewood is a dead thing, but people are alive, don't you think so? Uncle Li looked at Nianbing and was speechless. For the first time, he felt that the handsome young man in front of him was not simple. At least, he was more mysterious than he thought. This is the last piece. Uncle Li, I'll leave it for you as a souvenir. The hatchet suddenly became dexterous. The shadow of the hatchet swung gently, and the bark quietly peeled off. The sawdust splashed in the light of the hatchet. Under the effect of the carving technique, the hatchet seemed to come alive. The wood gradually took shape in Nianbing's hand. When the last flash of the hatchet flashed, it was no longer a piece of wood, but a person, a portrait. Uncle Li was surprised to find that the portrait turned out to be himself. One hand was holding the wood, and the other hand was raising the hatchet, ready to chop down. The sculpture was lifelike, as if it was a real person. Nianbing handed the hatchet and the sculpture to Uncle Li at the same time. He bowed slightly to him and said, Uncle Li, thank you for taking care of me these past few days. This is for you as a souvenir. I hope you still remember me. Uncle Li held the sculpture, which was still warm. Just as he was about to say something, He heard a clear voice not far away. Nian Bing, are you up? Hurry up and come with me. Time is tight. Nian Bing smiled and brushed the sawdust off his body. He said, Miss, I've been up for half a day. Let's go. He looked deeply at Uncle Li, and then he walked in the direction where Xuejing appeared. Xuejing was not wearing her favorite red dress today. She was wearing a white dress, which made her look much more charming. Let's go. Let's go to my place. She pulled Nian Bing's sleeve without avoiding arousing suspicion and walked into the depths of the Qingfeng Zhai. Uncle Li looked at their backs as they left, and then looked at the sculpture in his hand. He sighed softly and said to himself, It seems that this work of chopping wood will have to be done by me in the future. Xuejing led Nian Bing to a courtyard. As soon as they entered the courtyard, Nian Bing immediately smelled a fresh scent. The courtyard was not big, about 300 or 400 square meters. There was a stone path that led to the deepest part of the courtyard. Looking around, the entire courtyard was covered in green, especially a huge tree. Its branches and leaves were like a large green umbrella, covering half of the courtyard. Looking along the stone path, there was a wooden house. It seemed to have 2 or 3 rooms. Although the structure was made of wood, it looked very sturdy. In the middle of the lawn in the courtyard, there was a small pond about 10 square meters. The pond water was so clear that one could see the bottom. A red goldfish the size of a palm was swimming in the pond. It was indescribably leisurely. Xuejing turned to Nian Bing somewhat proudly and said, How is it? My place is not bad, right? I'm the only one living here. Other than Sister Ling, and my family, you are the first outsider to come here. Let's go. I've prepared everything for you. I borrowed these things from Ling, with great difficulty. You have to be careful. Don't break them and I won't be able to explain myself. Nian Bing followed Xuejing into the wooden house. The layout of the wooden house was much simpler than he had imagined. The elegance brought by the light pink color looked very fresh. Xuejing took out a set of magic robes from the bed inside and handed it to Nian Bing. The magic robes were red, and there was also the insignia of the Ice Moon Empire on the inside. There were 2 silver rings around the flame embroidery on the chest. It was 1 ring less than the one he had received yesterday. This should be the magic robes that symbolized a high-level magician. Nian Bing couldn't help but find it funny. He was a great magician, but now he had to pretend to be a high-level magician. It felt a bit strange. Xuejing handed the magic robes to Nian Bing and said, Try it on first and see if it fits. I think it should be fine. Attending the banquet as a high-level magician, plus your young age, there shouldn't be anyone who would look down on you. How is it? I'm very thoughtful, right? Nian Bing looked at Xuejing and said with a smile, Are you going to stay here and watch me change? Xuejing's charming face turned red and said, Who wants to watch you? Just hurry up. Although she said this, she still walked out of the room. Nian Bing took off his outer clothes and put on the red magic robes. The faint fire element aura made him feel very comfortable. It also fit him well. Are you done? Xuejing impatiently shouted at the door. I'm done. Nian Bing tidied up his clothes and looked at the door. Xuejing pushed the door and entered. When she saw Nian Bing wearing a high-level fire element magic robes, she couldn't help but be completely stunned. Under the red magic robes, his long golden hair was like a flame. His blue eyes looked so deep. Especially that arrogant temperament, it made her heart beat faster. Nian Bing was a bit uncomfortable under Xuejing's scorching gaze. Miss, is there anything wrong with me? Xuejing came back to her senses and secretly scolded herself. What's wrong with her? Isn't he just a bit good-looking? He's just an embroidered pillow. Xuejing, oh Xuejing, you must not be fooled by his appearance. This kind of man is not worth having a good impression of. She took a deep breath and walked in front of Nian Bing to take a closer look. Then she said, Not bad, it fits you quite well. You look like a decent person even if you wear good clothes. Yes, you have to maintain this attitude. You have to be a little arrogant. When the time comes at the banquet, Don't speak without my permission. Just follow me. Nian Bing nodded and said, Miss, the banquet will start at night. What should I do now? Xuejing said, There are still many things to do. I'll teach you some banquet etiquette first. Oh, by the way, do you know how to dance? Nian Bing thought, Dance 5? Dance 6? He shook his head and said, I don't know. Xuejing said, That's right. It'll take a long time to learn. I hope you can learn quickly so that you can use it at night. Let's start now. I'll teach you etiquette first. Half an hour later, Xuejing's surprised voice came from the wooden house. Nian Bing, did you learn etiquette before? How come you know all these? You seem to be doing it better than me. No, I don't know. What you did just now, I just learned it. Did he really not know how to do it? Of course not. As early as when he was young, he learned these things under the guidance of his father. His father said that these were indispensable in social situations. Now that he was learning from Xuejing, he naturally recalled the scenes of his childhood and did it very naturally and smoothly. Xuejing looked at Nian Bing with some doubts and said, Good. I didn't expect you to be so smart. You don't need to learn etiquette. Let's start learning dancing. If you can learn dancing so quickly, I'll treat you to something good at noon. Just then, a clear voice came from outside. Jing the clothes you wanted are ready. Xuejing was startled. Oh no, my father is here. Nian Bing, hide first. Don't let my father see you. Nian Bing was stunned. But your room is only so big. Where can I hide? The voice came from outside again. You little girl, you didn't even close the courtyard door. You're already so old, but you're still so careless. Let's see who dares to marry you in the future. This time, the voice was much closer to the wooden house. Xuejing looked around anxiously. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. She hurriedly pulled Nian Bing to the bed and pushed him onto it. She didn't even have time to take off her shoes and hurriedly put down the curtains on both sides of the bed. When all this was done, the door outside just happened to open. Xuejing was a little flustered as she greeted, Father, why did you come personally? Lying on the soft bed and smelling the faint fragrance, Nian Bing's heart couldn't help but flutter. She heard the clear voice say, You little girl, you've been going crazy every day recently and I haven't seen you at all. Father misses you. Your mother passed away early. You're the only family I have. Can't a father see his daughter? Xuejing's mood had already calmed down. She said coquettishly, Father is the best. Then I'll be sure to spend more time with you. Oh, by the way, are you going to the banquet tonight? Me? Of course I'm not going. That's a banquet for you young people. You should learn from Linger. Look at how gentle and obedient she is. Who dares to approach someone as crazy as you? If you can't get married in the future, I won't be responsible. Xuejing said angrily, Father, how can you say that about your own daughter? Your daughter is so beautiful. There are many people chasing after me. I just don't like them. The clear voice laughed mockingly and said, Is that so? Why do I hear that those young masters in the city run away when they see you? They're all scared of you? Xuejing snorted and said, That's because they're too useless. Even if I'm going to marry in the future, I want to marry a man who can support the heavens. If they can't even beat me, they don't have the qualifications. The clear voice said helplessly, But those young men I introduced to you last time were all not weak. Didn't you also not want them? Of course I can't. Those guys all have their eyes on the top of their heads. Furthermore, they're too ugly. They're all big and burly. How can they be worthy of me? Then I can't help it. You should find one yourself. As long as you're willing, I, as your father, will support you unconditionally. Is that fine? Xuejing giggled and said, Then you don't have to worry about it. In any case, I'm only 18 years old. There's no rush. You should be free these 2 days. You can go back first. I want to change my clothes and see if they fit. Lying on the bed and listening to the conversation between Xuejing and her father, Nian Bing's heart was filled with indescribable envy. Once upon a time, He also had a father who cared about him as much as he did. But now, thinking of this, his body subconsciously moved, making an extremely soft sound. Who's there? Jing, why is there someone on your bed? The clear voice suddenly became cold. Xuejing was obviously anxious. Father, it's nothing. It's just a girl. A girl? I want to see what this girl looks like. The curtains were lifted abruptly. Nianbing looked up and saw a handsome middle-aged man dressed in white standing by the bed. He was about 30 to 40 years old. Nianbing could tell from the man's cold gaze that he could tear Nianbing apart at any moment. Calmly sitting up from the bed, Nianbing stood up. He could understand the middle-aged man's feelings. Seeing a strange man on his daughter's bed, no one would be in a good mood. The middle-aged man turned to look at Xuejing and said coldly, "Is this the girl you were talking about?" He was very angry at first, but when he saw Nianbing's appearance, the anger in his heart subsided a little. The young man on the bed was handsome and didn't show a trace of panic when he suddenly saw him. In addition, he was wearing a fire magic robe, which symbolized that he was an advanced magician. All these were enough to prove that he was worthy of his daughter. After all, his daughter had grown up. Having friends of the opposite sex wasn't a big deal. Although he was lying on the bed, his clothes were neat and tidy. It was obvious that he was like this because of his sudden arrival. Xuejing looked at her father awkwardly. She turned to glare at Nianbing and said, "Father, he's just a friend of mine. You suddenly came just now. I was afraid that you would misunderstand, so—" The middle-aged man laughed. "Misunderstand? Would I, Xueji, misunderstand my own daughter? If you do this, it will only make it more conspicuous. Silly girl, I didn't know when you met such a fire magician. Introduce him to father." Xuejing was just about to speak when Nianbing spoke up. "Hello, I'm Nianbing. Actually, I'm not a fire magician. Miss borrowed these clothes. I'm just a woodcutter from the Breeze sect." Since Xuejing already looked down on him, why should he let her father misunderstand? Xueji frowned and said, "Woodcutter? Did I hear wrongly? Jing, I need an explanation from you." Although his voice was still calm, the aura emanating from his body allowed Nianbing to clearly recognize that the owner of the Cool Breeze restaurant definitely had a powerful martial skill. He was at least a great sword master. Compared to him, Xuejing was definitely not on the same level. Xuejing glared fiercely at Nianbing. "You have no right to speak here. Get out." Nianbing didn't say anything. He also looked deeply at Xuejing, then strode out of the room. Xuejing turned to her father and said in a low voice, "Father, you know that I've never had a boyfriend. Nianbing is a woodcutter who just came to our house not long ago. At tonight's banquet, all the other girlfriends had their male companions, but I didn't. Nianbing's looks are not bad, so I wanted him to pretend to be my boyfriend. I borrowed a magic robe from Ling, and now I'm teaching him etiquette." "Nonsense, really nonsense. How can you think of such a method? Haven't you thought about it? Is this fair? He's here to work, not for you to play around with." Although Xueji was reprimanding Xuejing, there was a smile on his face. He thought to himself, "Only my daughter can think of such a wicked idea." Xuejing saw that her father didn't seem to be angry. She immediately grabbed her father's arm and giggled. "What's not fair? Working for me is much easier than chopping wood." Xueji frowned. "You can't say that. Everyone has their own right to survive. As a girl, you should be more careful. I think that young man is not bad and he looks calm. Is he really just a woodcutter?" Xuejing said, "Of course it's true. He was recruited by me. That day, he wanted to go to the Great Accomplishment Pavilion, but he met that snob, Liao San. If I didn't save him, he would have been beaten up. Although he's not bad-looking, I don't like this kind of embroidered pillow. Father, don't worry, nothing will happen." Xueji smiled bitterly. "If only you could make me feel at ease. All right, I'm leaving. You can do as you see fit. Be careful. You're a girl after all, so you should pay attention to the rules. Otherwise, you'll be laughed at. If I stay here any longer, I'm afraid I'll have a heart attack. Chapter 18. Xuejing stuck out her tongue and personally sent her father to the door. As soon as she stepped out, she saw Nian Bing standing on the stone path, her eyes fixed on the big tree. No one knew what she was thinking. Xueji walked to Nian Bing's side and smiled. Young man, work hard at the breeze sect. Although my daughter is a little mischievous, her character is still good. What happened just now was a misunderstanding. I've already understood. How about you do him a favor? Nian Bing was slightly stunned. Xueji was the owner of the breeze sect, but he didn't use a demanding tone when speaking to her. It was more like he was pleading. Just this point alone was enough to show his gentlemanliness. She couldn't help but like him even more. She respectfully said, "This is what I should do. Owner, you don't have to be so polite." Xueji looked deeply at Nian Bing. Suddenly, he flipped his wrist and grabbed Nian Bing's shoulder. Nian Bing didn't move. He only had time to see Xueji's hand clearly. That white and strong hand had already grabbed his shoulder. There was no pain. Xueji patted his shoulder and said, "All right, I'm leaving. You can continue learning from her." With that, he turned and strode out. Nian Bing didn't notice that Xueji's eyes were filled with doubt. After that test, he had clearly discovered that Nian Bing didn't have a trace of battle qi in her body. Xueji had always felt that this young man wasn't simple, but he couldn't tell why. Walking out of the courtyard, he didn't close the door behind him. After Xueji left, Nian Bing turned her gaze to Xuejing. She saw Xuejing patting her towering chest. "You really scared me to death. Fortunately, father seems to have been seduced by your appearance. You idiot, who told you to speak just now? Would it have killed you to speak less? Hurry up and get back in here. Let's continue learning. Now we can be brazen." Nian Bing returned to the room. This time, she didn't need to continue learning etiquette. She started learning how to dance. 2 hours later. Nian Bing. When Nian Bing stepped on Xuejing's foot for the 14th time, she couldn't take it anymore. "I'm going to strangle you to death. Why are you so stupid? I've taught you so many times, but you still can't get it." Nian Bing dodged and said with grievance, "I've always been stupid. Isn't it a little too late for you to realize that now? Miss, it's morning now. You should still be able to make it. Swap? Even the clothes are according to your size. Where do you want me to find someone now? Wait a moment, I'll be right back." After giving Nian Bing a fierce stare, Xuejing turned around and ran out of the room. Looking at her hurried back, Nian Bing frowned slightly. If this girl had half of her father's self-restraint, she could be considered a beauty. What a pity! Not long after, Xuejing came back with a strange smile on her face. There was a tinkling sound under her feet. "This is good. You can step on me as much as you want. As long as you step on me, you're not allowed to rest. Keep practicing." Nian Bing looked over and was surprised to find that Xuejing had changed her shoes. A pair of iron shoes. She opened her eyes wide and said, "Miss, you don't have to be so exaggerated. Don't you think it's heavy?" Xuejing snorted and said, "Of course it's heavy. However, it's better than you stepping on me all the time. I've worn this pair of shoes for 5 years. They were specially made for practicing qigong. Each shoe weighs 15 kilograms. I'm now carrying 15 kilograms of weight to practice dancing with you. You better be serious, do you hear me?" When Nian Bing heard Xuejing say that she was not allowed to rest if she did not practice well, she had already made up her mind to be serious. Although it felt good to hold a beauty in his arms, it was not easy for a magician like him to stand like this all the time. She nodded helplessly and continued to practice dancing. The two of them practiced until the afternoon. Nian Bing barely grasped the steps of the dance. Although she could not be said to be graceful and free, she was able to go on stage. The two of them even had lunch in the room. Whether it was Nian Bing or Xuejing, who was wearing 15 kilograms of shoes, they were both sweating profusely. Xuejing wiped the sweat on her forehead and sat on her bed. Finally, I barely passed. That's it. If we continue practicing, even if you can persist, I won't be able to. Nianbing, you should rest for a while and drink some water. Later, go take a shower and change into a clean set of underwear. Then we should prepare to leave. This time, I want to see if he has me in his heart. Nianbing looked at Xuejing's persistent appearance, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. At this time, Xuejing seemed to be the most beautiful. She dared to pursue what she wanted. This was something that Ling Nianbing admired very much. Miss, if he is not jealous, what should we do? Xuejing said unhappily, shut your crow's mouth. This miss is beautiful and moving. How can he not be moved? If by any chance he is really a blockhead, I will hold you responsible. Nianbing said innocently, I'm not him. What does this have to do with me? Xuejing waved her hand in annoyance and said, I'm just saying it casually. In any case, I will do my best and leave the rest to fate. If the gods do not tie our string of fate together, what can I do? Ling is better. Since she was young, she has her senior brother by her side to pamper her and protect her. I don't have to worry about this aspect. Right now, I am almost depressed to death. Nianbing, how good would it be if you were really a magician? Nianbing looked at Xuejing. If I were really a magician, what good would it be? Xuejing giggled and said, if that was the case, you could pursue me. No matter what, the identity of a magician is worthy of me. Even if you are only an intermediate magician, it doesn't matter. Frankly speaking, I have seen so many men, but you are the most beautiful one. Who knows, after you wear women's clothing, you will become a great beauty more beautiful than me and Ling. Nianbing heard this and had goosebumps all over her body. She bitterly smiled and said, Miss, using the word beautiful to describe a man is not appropriate. Let's go take a bath now. I really feel very uncomfortable. Xuejing's charming face turned red and said, You said it clearly. What do you mean we are going to take a bath? Let's go. Fortunately, before learning to dance, I made you change out of the magician's robe. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if it got dirty. Do you know that this magician's robe is very expensive? Nianbing secretly said in her heart, I know, so in your heart, I am not as good as a magician's robe. It seems that in this society, without strength, there is nothing. If I was just an ordinary civilian, I am afraid I would really be insulted by you. Unfortunately, I am not. Xuejing, remember every word you said. Who would like an unruly and willful young miss like you? When night gradually fell, a luxurious carriage was traveling on the streets of Ice City. The carriage was pulled by 4 tall black horses. The body of the carriage was very large. It would not be a problem for more than a dozen people to sit inside. The driver was an old man. His posture was very strange. With a slight shake of his wrist, the reins in his hand would naturally be pulled on the back of the horse, guiding the direction of the horse. The speed was controlled very well. It was neither fast nor slow as it drove towards the west of Ice City. In the carriage, Xuejing looked at her silver dress with great discomfort. This dress was different from what she usually wore. It was specially made for banquets. Inside the dress there were 3 or 4 different kinds of fasteners. It took 3 maidservants half an hour to complete the dress. Xuejing, who always liked simplicity, was simply suffering in this dress. Nianbing, do you think my dress looks good? Xuejing subconsciously asked Nianbing, who was sitting opposite her. Nianbing smiled and said sincerely, It's very beautiful. Miss, your long brown hair and this silver dress look very noble. It's much better than your usual dress. Xuejing's eyes lit up and said, Really? If it's really beautiful, then I won't have wasted my efforts. This dress is so tight. It's really uncomfortable. Fortunately, I'm not very fat. I really don't know how much pain those fat women have to suffer when they wear this dress. You're still the best. No matter what occasion you attend, this magician's robe is the most suitable dress. Nianbing smiled and said, Anyway, I'm just pretending. Miss, if you feel uncomfortable, you can wear an ordinary dress. Don't you have confidence in your own beauty? Xuejing snorted and said, How can I not have confidence? However, today, isn't it to test that annoying guy? If it weren't for him, who would be willing to dress like this? In the social occasions of the upper class of Ice Snow City, I'm famous for being casual. Oh, right, from now on, don't call me Mississippi. If you call me that at the banquet, it will be a big joke. Nian Bing said indifferently, Then what should I call you? Xuejing thought for a moment and said, Since you appear as my boyfriend, then you can call me Jing or like my father. It's a bargain for you. Also, you have to remember, when you talk to me at the banquet, don't be so respectful. You must be more intimate. This way, it will be more realistic and won't be discovered by others. Do you understand? Nian Bing smiled and said, I understand. Jing it's like this. As he said that, he turned around and sat beside Xuejing. He hugged her slender waist with one hand. He let her lean in his arms. Xuejing was stunned for a moment. Then, she clearly smelled the masculine scent of a man on Nian Bing's body. She raised her head and looked at Nian Bing's handsome face. For a moment, she didn't realize how ambiguous their current position was. Nian Bing hugged Xuejing and a faint cold light appeared in his eyes. Since you want me to be your boyfriend, then I won't be polite. After a long while, Xuejing woke up. She struggled and said, Let go of me first. The banquet hasn't started yet. Although she said that, her struggle was very light. Nian Bing's warm embrace did bring her a great sense of comfort. Nian Bing smiled and said, Although the banquet hasn't started yet, I think it's better to cultivate the feeling with you first. If it's too stiff, as long as it's a discerning person, won't they be able to see through it at a glance? Since we're going to put on a show, we naturally have to make it more realistic. Xuejing was slightly stunned and looked at the handsome man again. When did you become so smart? In my impression, you are supposed to be an idiot. Nian Bing's blue eyes revealed a clear light. That's only your feeling, not mine. I've never said that I'm silly. Isn't that right? Xuejing suddenly felt a trace of uneasiness, but she couldn't explain why. She snorted and said, You have to remember that you're only going to be my boyfriend for one night. If you have any improper thoughts, don't blame me for being rude. Nian Bing smiled and said, I don't dare to have improper thoughts. You're a young lady and I'm a servant. After tonight, our identities will return to nature and we'll each return to our own territory, right? Jing Xuejing looked at Nian Bing's strange expression and didn't know why, but she felt a little flustered. At this moment, the carriage stopped. They had arrived at their destination. Xuejing slapped Nian Bing's hand away and took out a box from under her seat and handed it to Nian Bing. Nian Bing asked doubtfully, What is this? Xuejing said, You can open it and see. The box was red in color and it was quite heavy. Nian Bing opened the box and immediately felt a wave of fire elemental energy rush towards him. It was actually a fire elemental magic staff. The body of the staff was dark red, and there were spiral patterns on it. There was a round red gem at the tip of the staff. The quality was not bad, and the fire elemental energy was very dense. It should be of the same grade as the icicle staff that he had just obtained. Xuejing said, This is also something I borrowed. It's called Mars staff. Be careful, fire element magicians always have their own staff. Nian Bing picked up the staff and nodded. It won't break. Even if you sell me, it won't be worth as much. Xuejing stared blankly for a moment. She wanted to say something but didn't. The curtain of the carriage was lifted. Nian Bing followed the etiquette and jumped off the carriage first. Then she extended her right hand to Xuejing. Xuejing also got off the carriage with his help. The old coachman drove the carriage to the side. Miss, I'll wait for you at the door. Nian Bing looked up and saw a magnificent palace-like building. Although she was only outside the door, she could still feel the magnificent aura of the building in the courtyard. This was a very large courtyard. There were no walls around the courtyard. Instead, she could see the iron fence inside. The fence was about 3 meters high and the top was very sharp. It was obviously used to prevent people from climbing. Outside the 5 meters high gate, there were 10 soldiers standing guard on both sides. They all held standard knight spears in their hands. Each of them stood there with an imposing aura. Obviously, they weren't simple guards. Nian Bing remembered that Xuejing had once told her that the owner of this house was the chief financial officer of Ice Snow City. His power was so great that he was second only to the city lord, the Marquis. He also had the title of Count. Today's banquet was held for his daughter's 18th birthday. The Count's daughter was very good friends with Long Ling and Xuejing. Xuejing held Nian Bing's arm and said, "Be careful with your words. Remember everything I taught you. Do you understand?" Her hands were very cold. Even though there were 2 layers of clothes between them, Nian Bing could still clearly feel it. Obviously, Xuejing was a little nervous. At this time, Nian Bing was very relaxed. The expression on her face was very natural. Together with Xuejing, they slowly walked towards the gate. A housekeeper stood at the gate. He was receiving invitations from the guests who entered the courtyard. When he saw Xuejing, he couldn't help but smile and say, "Miss Xue has come. Our family's young miss is waiting for you. Miss Long Ling should be here soon." This time, the 3 great beauties of Ice Snow City can finally gather together. Xuejing smiled and said, "Uncle Li, you're making fun of Xue again. What 3 great beauties of Ice Snow City? That's just nonsense. If we really want to talk about it, Ling, and Ro are the real beauties. What am I?" The housekeeper smiled and his eyes fell on Nian Bing. Nian Bing could clearly see that the housekeeper's eyes flashed a cold light. If her mind wasn't strong enough, she was afraid that just this gaze alone would be enough to scare her away. She nodded slightly to the housekeeper and said, "Hello, I'm fire magician Nian Bing." The housekeeper smiled and said, "Mister, there's no need to be so polite. You've reached the realm of advanced magician at such a young age. You're really young and promising. Since you're Miss Xue's friend, you're naturally our distinguished guest. Please come in." He didn't ask any more questions. From Nian Bing's calm eyes, he could already feel that Nian Bing was really powerful. Xuejing didn't feel anything strange. She held Nian Bing's arm and finally entered the courtyard. This courtyard was very large. In front of the huge palace-like building, there was a huge magic fountain that could spray out a 10-meter-tall water column. Around the fountain, there were flowers of various colors. The entire courtyard was covered in green plants. Just the trees alone were more than 10. Clearly, the owner of this place had high requirements for the environment. Xuejing seemed to be relieved and whispered to Nian Bing, "We've passed the first test. You don't know, but the gatekeeper, Uncle Li, although he's only a housekeeper, he grew up with the Marquis. His martial arts skills are extremely high and he's deeply trusted by the Marquis. Every time there's a banquet like this, he's in charge of inspecting the guests. Until now, no one has been able to sneak in under his watch. My father once told me that this Uncle Li might have the strength of a martial fighter." Nian Bing secretly thought that this kind of rich and powerful family was indeed different. Just a housekeeper had such powerful abilities. It seemed that she had to be more careful and not give herself away. While thinking, she subconsciously touched the morning dew dagger in her bosom. That was the thing she relied on the most. When they entered the door of the tall building, 2 servants immediately greeted them and led them inside. A somewhat strange voice suddenly sounded, "Isn't this Xuejing? You've changed a lot today. I didn't expect you to be so beautiful in a formal dress." The one who spoke was a woman. She wasn't tall and was half a head shorter than Xuejing. Although her appearance was passable, but with the passage of time, the corners of her eyes had already revealed crow's feet. She was wearing heavy clothes, which made Nian Bing almost vomit. The beautiful woman walked in front of Xuejing with what she thought was a beautiful pace. Xuejing frowned impatiently. "So it's Madame Maya. I didn't expect you to come today." Madame Maya smiled and said, Of course I have to come. Today is the birthday of the Count's daughter. How can I not come? Xuejing, quickly, let's talk inside. Oh, who's this handsome magician? Why haven't I seen him before? Xuejing coldly snorted and said, This is my boyfriend, senior fire magician Nian Bing. He has just returned from his travels outside. Of course, you haven't seen him before. I'm sorry, Madame Maya, we have to go in first. Ruer is still waiting for me. With that, she pulled Nian Bing and quickly walked inside, no longer paying attention to Madame Maya. Madame Maya's eyes fell on Nian Bing's face and didn't move away. Her eyes revealed an intoxicated look, and her lips were trembling. Nian Bing whispered something, but Nian Bing didn't dare to listen. She immediately lowered her head and walked into the hall with Xuejing. Such a disgusting old woman, it's better to stay away from her. Jing who was that person just now? It felt so strange. Nian Bing couldn't help but ask Xuejing. Strange? What's so strange about it? When she was young, she used to be a social butterfly. Later, she finally married a viscount. After marriage, she found out that the viscount's family had long declined. Their family's financial situation was not good. A few years later, the viscount fell ill and passed away. However, she did not have the slightest intention of restraining herself. She started her life as a social butterfly again. It has been like a day for decades. Can't you see that there is so much powder on her face? Don't you see the wrinkles on her face? I'm afraid her real age is over 50. It's disgusting to look at her. Nian Bing smiled and leaned over to Xuejing's ear and said, I feel the same. Xuejing couldn't help but feel a little itchy. She subconsciously shrank her neck. Just as she was about to question Nian Bing, she remembered where she was now. She just glared at him and swallowed the words from her mouth. Nian Bing didn't seem to notice. She smiled slightly, straightened her back, and looked around. The surrounding environment was indeed good. The entire hall was thousands of square meters. There were more than 100 guests who had already arrived. They were chatting in groups of 3 or 5. Looking at their clothes, it was obvious that they were either rich or noble. The entire hall was filled with the smell of cosmetic. Nian Bing, you go to the side alone for a while. You can also eat something. If someone speaks to you, you'd better not answer. Just look arrogant. I'm going to find Ro. After all, it's her birthday today. As she said that, Nian Bing pointed to the empty sofa at the side. Then, she walked up the stairs at the side. Nian Bing walked to the sofa and sat down. He casually picked up a drink and slowly drank it. This kind of social occasion wasn't what he liked. He just calmly observed these people. The Mars staff in his hand was placed on the table in front of him. He didn't pay much attention to this kind of metal equipment. At this moment, he suddenly heard the door guard shout, Magician's Guild, Miss Long Ling and 9th Young Master Sure have arrived. They're here. Although Nian Bing had already guessed that they would come, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He hurriedly picked up the staff on the table and stood up. He walked to a relatively dark corner and stood still. Today, Long Ling didn't wear a magician's robe. Instead, she wore a purple dress. The dress matched her very well. It set off her elegant and gentle character. When she walked into the hall, it was as if there was an additional purple fairy. Long Ling's popularity was obviously much better than Xuejing's. When Xuejing came in just now, most people only gave her a few glances and continued talking. Only a few people took the initiative to greet her. Long Ling was different. When she entered, she became the center of attention. Almost everyone took the initiative to greet her. It felt like she was the owner of this place. With a slight smile, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a faint light. He knew that in this kind of situation, Long Ling wouldn't be able to discover him. He was also happy to have some peace and quiet. Today, he wanted to see what kind of tricks this so-called upper-class aristocratic banquet had. Sergio was still wearing his magician's robe. Although there wasn't any symbol of identity on it, no one present doubted his strength. Although Sergio wasn't as handsome as Nianbing, he was still passable. For a moment, the two became the center of attention. At this moment, Nianbing discovered an anomaly like himself. Because only the two of them didn't go up to greet Long Ling and Sergio, they easily discovered each other. It was a young man. His figure was similar to Nianbing's, except that he was more robust. He wore a fitted white shirt and pants that looked very straight on his body. Although his chiseled face couldn't be said to be very handsome, it emitted a strong masculine aura. A pair of black eyes and long black hair made him look somewhat cold. In his hand was a knife. The knife was very short. It felt like it wasn't much longer than her morning dew. The scabbard was also white. To be able to bring a knife here, it was obvious that this man's identity wasn't ordinary. Suddenly, a thought appeared in Nianbing's mind. This person couldn't be the cool guy that Xuejing liked, right? Very quickly, Nianbing confirmed his thoughts. In the hall, only this person could match Xuejing's description. Ling Nianbing felt something strange happen. That man actually walked towards her. Although he didn't walk very fast, the hall was only so big. In just a few steps, he was in front of Nianbing. "Hello, I'm Yan Feng." Nianbing was stunned. According to Xuejing's description, he should be very cold and wouldn't get close to humans or beasts. Why would he take the initiative to greet her? Although that was what she thought, she didn't act impolitely. She reached out her hand to shake his and said, "Hello, I'm Nianbing." Letting go of her hand, Yan Feng walked to Nianbing's side and stood there. He raised his little finger and very naturally brushed away a lock of black hair in front of his forehead and tucked it behind his ear. His overly black eyes were filled with an indescribable brilliance as he stared at Nianbing in silence. After a long time, his lips slightly rippled with a faint smile. "I don't think I've seen you before." Looking at the tall and cold Yan Feng, Nianbing suddenly had a strange feeling in her heart. Although she couldn't tell what this feeling was, she faintly felt that something was wrong. "I just came to Ice Snow City not long ago and just joined the Magician's Guild. That's why you haven't seen me before. It seems that you often participate in these kinds of social activities." Yan Feng's gaze still fell on Nianbing's face as he coldly said, "Not often, just occasionally. I hate those women who are like flies the most." Nianbing secretly said in her heart, "This guy must have a problem with his brain. Why is he pretending to be cool?" She smiled and nodded to Yan Feng, no longer talking to him. Yan Feng also didn't speak, his gaze falling on the scene. Long Ling struggled to break free from the crowd of people. She said something to Sergio and also ran upstairs. Obviously, she should be meeting up with Xuejing and Miss Roer. Long Ling's departure caused the atmosphere in the hall to drop again. The nobles continued to talk about something. Sergio also became one of them at this time. From his expression, it could be seen that the nobles must have praised him. With his temperament, under this kind of praise, he probably didn't even know his own name. Most of the nobles who came today were very young, of course, except for Madame Maya. The cold Yan Feng suddenly opened his mouth again. "The Count has appeared." Nianbing followed his gaze and saw an old man of about 50 years old walking down the stairs. The old man was wearing a luxurious robe. He wasn't tall and looked like a big meatball. As the fat on his body trembled, he walked down the stairs. The stairs were obviously very sturdy. Even with his weight, it still didn't make a sound. Nianbing thought, as expected of the chief financial officer of Ice Snow City, he must have stuffed a lot of delicious things into his stomach. The appearance of the Count made the people who were chatting suddenly quiet down. Their eyes fell on the stairs. The Count stopped halfway up the stairs. His fat face was full of smiles. "Welcome everyone to my humble home. Today is my daughter's 18th birthday, and also the day she becomes an adult. Everyone, feel free to eat, drink, and have fun. Treat this place as your own home. If there is anything that is not good enough, please feel free to continue. Everyone, let's continue. I think my daughter will be out soon." As soon as these words came out, it immediately attracted a chorus of praises. The fat on the Count's face clumped even tighter. He seemed to be very satisfied with such a scene. He slowly walked down the stairs with a glass of wine in his hand. He walked together with the young nobles and chatted. Seeing this scene, Nian Bing and Yan Feng's faces showed the same expression. Their brows were wrinkled and full of disdain. The extravagant life of the nobles was indeed not what they liked. "Brother Yan, how much do you know about this Count?" Nian Bing asked subconsciously. He was not familiar with this place. The only one who could answer his question now was Yan Feng. Chapter 19. Yan Feng said coldly, "The Earl's name is Luo Hao. Although he is not honest, he is quite capable. The finances of Ice Snow City are under his control. The taxes that he pays to the Ice Moon Empire every year are definitely not less than the taxes that Ice Snow City pays. What he is most proud of is that he has a good daughter. Although Luo Ro is only 18 years old this year, she became famous 10 years ago. When she was 8 years old, she participated in the triennial national exam of the Ice Moon Empire and obtained the first place. Furthermore, her score was much higher than the second place. She was known as a child prodigy. As she grew older, her intelligence became more and more apparent. It is said that the reason why the chief financial officer was able to handle all the finances in an orderly manner was inseparable from this wise girl. Among the 3 beauties of Ice Snow City, the youngest wise girl is the leader. Wise girl Luo Ro, Witch Long Ling, and crazy girl Xuejing. When the 3 of them are together, even the Marquis of Ice Snow City will give them some leeway. Crazy girl? Haha, she really lives up to her name. With her temper, this title is completely appropriate. Hearing the 3 girls' nicknames, Nian Bing couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Yan Feng's gaze fell on Nian Bing. "What's wrong? Do you know Xuejing?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "Today I am her male companion, so of course I know her. What does Brother Yan think of her?" Yan Feng's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. "I didn't expect you to be Xuejing's male companion. What can I think of her? I only know that her father, Xueji, is the brother of one of the 3 marshals of the Ice Moon Empire, blood-devouring soul-destroying Snow Soul. Snow Soul is the head of the 3 marshals of the Empire. He is known for his iron and blood style. As long as he goes to war, no one will survive. Therefore, he is also known as the Iron and Blood Marshal. Xueji is much more low-key than his brother. He only opened a restaurant in Ice Snow City called Breeze Restaurant. However, with his brother's prestige, no one dares to offend him." After knowing the background of the Snow family, Nian Bing could not help but take a deep breath. To be able to open such a large bar in the middle of Snow Castle, it was definitely not a simple family. Exclamations rang out at this moment. Everyone's eyes once again gathered on the stairs. They all shouted out 2 words at the same time, "Wise woman, wise woman, wise woman," on the stairs. The first to appear were Xuejing and Long Ling. The 2 women, one in silver and one in purple, highlighted the 2 women's full and moving figures under the contrast of the tight-fitting dresses. When they stood together, Xuejing seemed to be fuller. Many years of martial arts training made her look healthy and lively. Although Long Ling was slightly slender, her gentle smile easily gave people a good impression. Most of the men present had their eyes fixed on the stairs. Of course, this did not include Nian Bing and Yan Feng. At this moment, a blue figure appeared between Long Ling and Xuejing. She had a head of long blue hair that was slightly curly, as if it had not been combed. A pair of big blue eyes emitted a faint light. Without looking at her appearance, Nian Bing was deeply attracted to this pair of eyes. Those eyes were full of wisdom, deep like a divine pool in a valley. Although clear, but bottomless. In terms of appearance, among all the women that Nian Bing had seen before, perhaps only Feng Nu could compare with her. However, this Miss Luo Ro looked much more delicate, and there seemed to be a trace of sickly beauty between her eyebrows. Nian Bing smiled. No wonder Brother Yan said that the Count values women. Seeing the wise woman in person, I really have some doubts whether she is the Count's biological daughter. Yanfeng looked at Nianbing, and a rare faint smile appeared on his face. I don't know about that. However, you must not let the Count hear this, otherwise, he will be angry. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, invisibly closing the distance between them a little. At this moment, the Count had already arrived at the bottom of the stairs. The wise woman, Luo Ro, accompanied by Long Ling and Xuejing, slowly walked down. Luo Ro only stopped when she reached the stairs. She smiled and bowed to everyone present. Today is Luo Ro's birthday. Thank you for coming. Luo Ro is honored. Melodious birthday music sounded, and the entire hall was filled with a harmonious atmosphere. A cart was slowly pushed by two servants. On the cart there was a huge cake with 7 layers. There were 18 blue candles lit on the cake. The lights in the hall dimmed, and only the candles were still bright. Other than Yan Bing and Yan Feng, all the guests present sang the birthday song. Luo Ro smiled gently, and put her hands together in front of her chest. She closed her eyes and made a wish. After a while, when she opened her eyes, there was a smile on her face. Silence. Ling let's blow together. The 3 girls opened their mouths at the same time, and the 18 candles were extinguished in the fragrance. The lights in the hall were lit again, and the birthday ceremony was over. Luo Ro took the table knife and made the first cut. She cut a small gap in the top layer of the cake. She raised the knife and dipped it in a layer of milky white cream. Luo Ro smiled. There are many guests present. Luo Ro's body is not very good. I wonder if I can ask a young master to come up and help me cut this cake. Luo Ro does not have a male partner today. I am willing to dance with this young master. As soon as she said this, it caused an uproar. All the young nobles who thought they were qualified raised their hands high, and they all fought to be first, hoping to get Luo Ro's approval. Nian Bing looked at Yan Feng. Brother Yan, are you not interested? Yan Feng said indifferently, not interested. If you are willing, I can lend you a hand. Nian Bing smiled. Okay. Then I will have to trouble Brother Yan. Yan Feng's eyes showed a trace of surprise. You really want to go? Nian Bing smiled. Why not? To be able to dance with the wise woman, it is not a waste for me to come here. Brother Yan, it seems like we have to hurry. Otherwise, Miss Luo Ro will be chosen. Yan Feng looked deeply at Nian Bing and nodded. Okay, I will help you. Follow behind me. After he finished speaking, he walked towards the densest part of the crowd. A faint white dough qi emitted from Yan Feng's body. All the nobles fell to the sides when they came in contact with this dough qi. They wanted to be angry, but when they saw Yan Feng's cold face, they couldn't help but restrain themselves. Yan Feng's actions immediately attracted everyone's attention, including Xuejing. Other than Yan Feng himself and Yan Bing, everyone felt that Yan Feng was going to cut the cake for Luo Ro. In an instant, the voices weakened. It was as if no one was willing to fight with him. He didn't use his battle energy to force them back and naturally opened up a path. Xuejing's expression changed slightly. She came today mainly for Yan Feng. Now that she saw that Yan Feng was going to cut the cake for her best friend, her feelings immediately became complicated. Luo Ro saw Yan Feng walking towards her and couldn't help but smile. Young Master Yan, are you going to help me cut the cake? It is my honor. Yan Feng walked in front of the cake and glanced at Luo Ro and the other 2 girls. He nodded to the Count beside him. No, it is not me. It is a friend of mine. I hope Miss Luo Ro can give him this opportunity. After he finished speaking, he leaned to the side. Only then did everyone notice the magician in a fiery red robe behind him. Long Ling and Xuejing couldn't help but exclaim softly when they saw him appear. They revealed doubtful gazes. When Luo Ro saw Nian Bing's handsome appearance and extraordinary temperament, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but flash with a strange light. In an instant, Nian Bing became the focus of the entire banquet. Nian Bing walked to Yan Feng's side and calmly looked at the 3 girls in front of him. He smiled. Miss Luo Ro, may I be of service? No. Before Luo Ro could open her mouth, Xuejing rushed to shout. After shouting these 2 words, she realized that she was too anxious. Feeling the doubtful gazes of the crowd, she couldn't help but say, I mean that his status is not enough. Yan Feng coldly said, Crazy Xuejing, no wonder you are called crazy. Are you going to go crazy at Miss Luo Ro's birthday banquet? He is my friend. Just this point alone is enough for me to accept him. Hearing Yan Feng speak, Xuejing couldn't say anything. She fiercely glared at Nian Bing and didn't say anything. Nian Bing didn't seem to notice Xuejing's glare. He continued to look at Luo Ro, who had the same blue eyes as him. May I be of service? Although Luo Ro had the same doubts in her heart, she was worthy of her title as a wise woman. Under such circumstances, she smiled slightly and said, Jing Jing bowed just now. I apologize to you on her behalf. There is no distinction of status at Luo Ro's birthday banquet. Every guest who attends is Luo Ro's friend. Sir, please. As she spoke, she handed the table knife in her hand to Nian Bing. A simple sentence instantly dispelled the awkward atmosphere. Nian Bing walked to Luo Ro's side and nodded slightly. Ladies, please step back to prevent the cream from staining your clothes. Luo Ro glanced at Nian Bing and stepped back with Long Ling and Xuejing. Nian Bing held the handle of the knife. Although it was a different knife, with his knife sense, he could clearly feel the presence of the table knife. Glancing at the plates on the dining cart, Yan Feng came to his side and handed the first plate to him. Nian Bing smiled. This first piece is naturally for today's birthday girl, Miss Wise Lady. There was a flash of light. Other than Yan Feng, who was beside Nian Bing, no one saw how he moved. A piece of cake was neatly placed on the plate. Even more strangely, the cream on the table knife was gone. The rest of the cake was cut neatly and the cream was not touched at all. Nian Bing passed the plate to Wise Lady behind him. This cake is my birthday gift to Miss Wise Lady. Even with Wise Lady's intelligence, she did not understand Nian Bing's meaning. Long Ling could not help but say, This is clearly Ro Er's cake. How can it be considered a gift from you? Nian Bing smiled and said, Miss Wise Lady, taste it and you will know. This is the only special piece of cake today. Luo Ro's gaze met with Nian Bing's. She was surprised to find that she could not see through this exceptionally handsome man in front of her. She took the spoon from the servant and cut a small piece of cake into her mouth. In the process of cutting, she found that the cake was a little hard. When the cake entered her mouth, Luo Ro could not help but exclaim, It's so cold. The originally fragrant and greasy cake now had a hint of sweetness to it. The ice-cold cream and cake melted in her mouth, and the sweet and refreshing aroma immediately filled her mouth and nose. Luo Ro's spirit was lifted, and her originally pale face had a hint of redness. Nian Bing smiled and said, How is it? Using ice magic into the cake seemed simple, but the control of the fire was extremely important. If too little ice magic was used, then the taste of the cake would be worse. If too much ice magic was used, then the cake would become a lump of ice and could not be eaten. Perhaps only a magician like Nian Bing, who was born as a chef, could control it so well. Luo Ro's eyes flashed. She nodded at Nian Bing and said, Thank you, sir. Luo Ro is very satisfied with this gift. It's been a long time since I've eaten something that made me want to eat more. I wonder if young master can let my 2 sisters have the same taste? The nobles present naturally did not understand the meaning of their conversation. However, Luo Ro did not seem to be lying. For a moment they could not help but look at Nian Bing with curiosity. Nian Bing smiled faintly and a trace of cold arrogance appeared on her face. I'm sorry, Miss Luo Ro. I said that only you can taste this special gift today. Nian Bing turned around and his knife flashed continuously. Piece after piece of cake fell onto an empty plate under the effect of the knife. After every 10 slashes, Nian Bing would wait for a while so that Yan Feng, who was beside him, could distribute the cake. There were many people present who were familiar with martial arts. They could all tell that Nian Bing was not using battle energy. He was only relying on his skillful knife skills and extraordinary wrist strength to achieve such an effect. The control of his strength was extremely mystical. Every piece of cake was completely undamaged and was exactly the same size. However, when the cake entered the mouths of the nobles, it still tasted the same. When Nian Bing took the last piece of cake into her hands, the 7 layers of cake had just been distributed. Everyone had a piece, no more and no less. In addition, every piece was the same size. This was clearly calculated. Luo Ro had already eaten half of the cake in her hand. Looking at Nian Bing, who had finished distributing the cake, she smiled and said, "I didn't expect young master to finish distributing the cake so quickly." Nian Bing walked in front of Luo Ro with the cake in her hands and said with a smile, "If it was someone else, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to dance with Mississippi." At first glance, distributing the cake was a very easy task. However, if it was an ordinary person, it would take a long time to distribute more than 100 pieces of cake. Taking advantage of this time, the ball would have already started. Luo Ro could use the excuse of waiting for the person to cut the cake as an excuse to refuse other people's invitation to dance. When the person who cut the cake was done, she could also find an excuse to refuse. Such scheming was indeed worthy of the title of wise woman. When Nian Bing said that she would ask someone to cut the cake for her, she had already seen through everything. Although this wise woman looked gentle and peaceful on the surface, she was actually very sharp. The arrogance in her heart could only be seen through by a wise person. Luo Ro knew that Nian Bing had seen through her plan. Half of the cake in her hands had already been eaten. At this time, the eyes of the 3 beauties of Ice City all fell on him. Luo Ro's eyes were filled with provocation, Long Ling's eyes were filled with curiosity and inquiry, and Xuejing's eyes were the most obvious. There was also a hint of curiosity in her anger. Luo Ro said in a clear voice, "After eating the cake, everyone is free to participate in the ball. Luo Ro will now keep her promise and dance the first song with this Mr. Magician. Music." Luo Ro extended her right hand towards Nian Bing as the melodious music started playing. Nian Bing smiled and took her small hand. Naturally, he hugged her slender waist, which seemed like it could break at any moment. He slid his feet and stepped onto the dance floor. The guests consciously scattered to the 2 sides, giving them the middle of the dance floor. Although Nian Bing's dancing skills were a little rusty, she gradually became more natural with the music. The fragrance on Luo Ro's body was very light, but it left a deep impression on Nian Bing. It was similar to the fragrance of orchids. Holding her soft little hand in his palm was indescribably comfortable. Their blue eyes stared deeply into each other's. In the eyes of outsiders, it was a gaze of deep affection. However, Nian Bing and Luo Ro knew that the other party was giving them a challenging look. Luo Ro's cherry lips trembled. In a voice that only Nian Bing could hear, she said, "Where did you come from? I can be sure that you are not from this city, because there are very few blondes in the Ice Moon Empire." Nian Bing smiled and replied in the same low voice, "Indeed, I just came to Ice City not long ago. Miss, you naturally haven't seen me on various occasions. I have long heard of your reputation as a wise woman. Seeing you today, you really live up to your reputation. It is indeed my honor to be able to dance with you." Luo Ro's clear eyes showed a trace of dissatisfaction. As the saying goes, don't lie in front of a famous person. Why do you have to use such a jack of all trades? Can you tell me who you came with? Yen Feng has never casually interacted with others. Today, he also came by himself. I believe that you two have just met not long ago. To be able to get him to help you, it seems that you have quite the charisma. Nian Bing said without batting an eyelid, "Perhaps it is because I am fated with Brother Yen. It is not difficult for Miss Luo Ro to know where I come from. You just have to ask your good sister." Luo Ro's eyes showed surprise for the first time, as if she had thought of something. Could it be that you are the fake boyfriend that came with Silence? Nian Bing said indifferently, as expected of a good sister. You already know this, why do you need me to explain anything? Luo Ro's eyes showed that she was deep in thought. Nian Bing continued to look at her with a burning gaze. Luo Ro knew that in her first confrontation with Nian Bing, she had already lost. She had lost because of Nian Bing's mysteriousness. Since she was young, this was the first time she had tasted defeat. She couldn't help but have a deeper understanding of this young man in front of her. The surrounding guests looked at the man and woman on the dance floor with envy and admiration. The man was tall and handsome, and the woman was stunningly beautiful. They were like a golden couple. Even Luo Ro's father, the old count, couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. He had hosted many social events, but this was the first time he had seen someone whose looks and figure were worthy of his precious daughter. The music came to an end. Nian Bing's large hands led Luo Ro in two beautiful circles. Nian Bing's right hand reached out and wrapped around her waist, causing her to lean back. At the same time, she took half a step forward, her face close to Luo Ro's. Her eyes revealed a faint smile, and she said in a normal voice, "Miss Luo Ro's dance is beautiful. Compared to you, I am much more unfamiliar." With a slight force, Luo Ro straightened her back. She glanced at Nian Bing, her eyes full of charm. "Sir, you are too modest. Although you are unfamiliar with dancing, you have completely integrated into the music. With a little more time, Luo Ro will definitely not be able to match you. Alright, distinguished guests, please dance to your heart's content." After announcing the official start of the dance party, Luo Ro held Nian Bing's hand and walked to the side of the dance floor. She couldn't hold back her curiosity and wanted to ask her good friend clearly. Xuejing seemed to have forgotten about Nian Bing. She stood beside Yan Feng and whispered, "Aren't you going to dance?" Yan Feng glanced at her coldly and said calmly, "Sorry, I don't know how to dance. And I definitely won't dance with the woman who just humiliated my friend." Xuejing was slightly angry. "Your friend? How long have you known him? Could it be that in your heart, he is more important than me?" Yan Feng glanced at Xuejing impatiently. "No, you are wrong. Not more important, but much more important." Hearing the first few words, Xuejing's eyes revealed a trace of joy. But when she heard the last sentence, her healthy complexion immediately lost all color and she almost fainted. "All right, Yan Feng, remember this. Silence, come, I have something to ask you." At this moment, Luo Ro's voice sounded. Xuejing turned around and saw Luo Ro holding Nian Bing's hand and walking to the side of the dance floor. When she saw Nian Bing, she immediately became angry. She thought to herself, damn Nian Bing, you are dead today." While thinking, she didn't care about her previous ladylike demeanor and walked over with large strides. Sergio wanted to ask Long Ling to dance with him, but he was stopped by Luo Ro. Nian Bing smiled. "Big brother Sergio, hello. I didn't expect to see you here today." Long Ling frowned. "I really didn't expect it. Nian Bing, you are an ice magician. Why are you wearing a fire magician's robe today? Also, your level isn't right. These clothes are a bit familiar." Xuejing, who had just walked over, only heard the last sentence. She snorted, "Of course it's familiar. Didn't I borrow his clothes and magic staff from you?" Luo Ro looked at Nian Bing in confusion, but didn't say anything. But the dragon spirit opened his eyes wide and said, "What? Jing, this is the split you were talking about." Xuejing didn't want to give Nian Bing any face in front of her sisters. She fiercely said, "That's right, he is the one who chopped the firewood. I didn't expect him to play tricks." Nian Bing smiled faintly. I didn't play any tricks. I helped your good friend cut the cake. Isn't that fitting for this disguise? Don't forget, I am now your boyfriend. I know you want to ask why I have such skilled knife skills to cut the cake. It's actually very simple. After chopping firewood for so many years, I naturally became proficient. No matter what it is, it's all the same." He wasn't lying, so his eyes were very calm. Luo Ro, who had already confirmed something, couldn't help but doubt her own judgment when she saw this calm expression. Xuejing said angrily, You did it on purpose, didn't you? Tell me, what did you say to Yanfeng just now? Nian Bing said faintly, I only said hello to Brother Yan. He isn't like what you described. He doesn't give people a comfortable feeling when interacting with him. Xuejing could no longer suppress the anger in her heart. Get out of here. I'll deal with you when we get back. Nian Bing's change and Yan Feng's indifference completely enraged this crazy woman. Silence, Luo Ro said unhappily. After all, Nian Bing had just danced with her for the first time and had already become the most important guest. If she was driven out by Xuejing, then there was no need for the banquet to continue. Nian Bing smiled faintly. I'm sorry, Miss Xuejing, I didn't sell you as a slave. Everyone has their own pride, I hope you can watch your words. Moreover, you don't have the power to drive out a great magician, am I right? Linger. As he spoke, he turned his gaze toward Long Ling, who had already become dumbstruck due to shock. Xuejing's voice became sharp. In her anger, she had already forgotten where she was. Great magician? Are you talking about yourself? Who do you think you are? Silence. Luo Ro and Long Ling shouted at the same time. Long Ling had already woken up and walked between Nian Bing and Xuejing. She said in a low voice, Silence, no matter what conflict you have between you, today is Ro Er's birthday. Don't be a downer. Moreover, Nian Bing is right. With his position in our union, you really don't have the power to drive him out. Xuejing was stunned. Ling you really know him? Long Ling nodded. Silence. Although I don't know what misunderstanding there is between you two, there is one thing I can be sure of. Do you remember the new great magician I told you about? It's Nian Bing. He is younger than me but has already reached the level of a great magician. He is deeply acknowledged by my father and several other magicians. Luo Ro nodded and held out her remaining cake. I can prove this with this cake that looks like ice cream. Xuejing was stunned, completely stunned. She had never thought that Nian Bing, who had always been weak in her eyes, would actually be a genius magician. This sudden contrast was hard for her to accept, but she clearly knew that Long Ling and Luo Ro would never lie to her. Everything was true. Her gaze suddenly became cold. After staring at Nian Bing, her emotions became calm. Roer, I'm sorry. I can't continue to attend your birthday party. I'll come another day to apologize. I'll leave first. After saying that, she walked out with calm steps and elegantly walked out. Luo Ro and Long Ling, who were familiar with her, knew that Xuejing was on the verge of erupting like a volcano. They were afraid that this matter could not be settled peacefully. Nian Bing, what's going on? Shi Jiao, who had been silent all this time, could not help but ask. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, It's nothing. It's just a misunderstanding between me and Miss Xuejing. Big brother Shi Jiao, with such beautiful music, aren't you going to invite Miss Xuejing for a dance? Shi Jiao was stunned for a moment, but immediately reacted. Nian Bing responded with a grateful smile and extended his right hand in a gentlemanly manner. Long Ling had no reason to refuse Shi Jiao. Although she still wanted to ask clearly, she had no choice but to slide onto the dance floor with Shi Jiao. Nian Bing stood there calmly, watching the couples on the dance floor. His mood was very relaxed. This time, he could completely leave the cool breeze study. Don't you think this is very cruel to silence? Luo Ro stood beside Nian Bing and said faintly. Cruel? I don't think so. Miss Luo Ro, you're known as a wise woman. In your opinion, with Xuejing's nature, shouldn't she suffer some setbacks? Nian Bing turned to look at Luo Ro. Luo Ro frowned slightly. So you're saying that you're still helping her? Nian Bing said faintly. At least that's what I think. Xuejing helped me before. Although I hid my identity as a magician from her, I don't have any ill intentions towards her. To be honest, if she was a man, I might really take revenge on her for all the insults she's given me these days. However, she's a woman after all. There's nothing to fight over with a woman. That's why I chose to reveal my identity today. Perhaps you think that I've hurt Shuejing, but we can't even be considered friends. She's not sad, she's just angry. Do you think I'd care if another person hates me? You're a wise woman and Shuejing is your friend. If you can guide her to change her current temper and way of speaking, perhaps she won't suffer so much in the future. Luo Ro's expression became a bit strange. Just who are you? I really don't understand why you're doing all this. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, I'm just an ordinary magician. Didn't you already hear from Ling Er? I'm an ice magician who just joined the Magicians Guild. Luo Ro smiled. Nian Bing, that should be your name. You've already aroused my interest. Just like a mouse smelling a cat, Nian Bing couldn't help but shiver. Miss Luo Ro, if you want to investigate my background, then you can do whatever you want. I'm really sorry for disturbing your birthday party today, but to be able to meet a wise woman, I'm very happy. If there's a chance in the future, Nian Bing will definitely pay you a visit. I'll have to trouble you to tell Ling Er that I'm going back to the guild first. If she wants to find me, she can go to the library. Luo Ro said with a bit of disappointment, You're leaving now? Nian Bing smiled and said, Even if I don't leave, I'm afraid that Miss Luo Ro won't be willing to dance with me again. That's why I'm leaving. I don't like the feeling of being the target of public criticism. Luo Ro's expression changed. Then will you still return to the Clearwind sect? She wanted to say, so what if I dance with you again? But when the words reached her mouth, she didn't say it. Chapter 20. Nian Bing shook her head and said, At least not now. But when I return to the Clearwind study, I won't be in my current identity. Luo Ro smiled and said, You won today, but you can't win forever. When I know everything about you, I will make you accept your loss. Nian Bing pretended to be terrified. I am already convinced. Miss, please don't make things difficult for me. Luo Ro snorted and said, Are you disdaining to fight with a little girl like me? Nian Bing smiled and said, I don't dare. It's just that I really don't have time to fight with Mississippi. If Miss has the ability to enter the Magician Guild's library, you can find me there. I won't leave the Magician Guild for at least a month. If that's the case, you've accepted my challenge. Good, let me send you out. After saying that, without waiting for Nian Bing to object, she took the initiative to take his hand and walked out with him. The night was cold and the air was especially fresh. Luo Ro held Nian Bing's hand and walked slowly out of the courtyard like a couple. With a beauty by his side, Nian Bing felt relaxed and comfortable, but there was no trace of desire in her heart. Nian Bing, how about we make a bet? Luo Ro said with a smile. Although she said it casually, Nian Bing could sense the hidden meaning behind her word. A bet? Sorry, I am not a gambler. Luo Ro said, You don't dare? Afraid of losing to me? Nian Bing smiled. It's better to provoke someone. When used on a wise woman, I'm afraid no one can escape. Why don't you tell me, how do we make this bet? Luo Ro said, Let's bet this month. If I can't figure out your true identity in a month, then I lose. If I can figure it out, then you lose. How about it? Nian Bing looked at Luo Ro and said, Don't you already know my true identity? I didn't hide anything. How about this? It's too difficult for you to figure out my identity, so difficult that it's almost impossible. Let's bet on my profession. As long as you can find out my true profession and provide me with evidence, you win. But what do we bet on? Luo Ro smiled and said, All right, we'll do as you say. That means you're not as simple as a magician. If I win, you have to promise me one thing. If you lose, I'll promise you one thing. Nian Bing was a little amused as she said, Isn't this condition a little too vague? If I win and ask you to marry me, would you agree? Luo Ro let go of Nian Bing's hand and laughed. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you have to be able to beat me first. I've never lost a bet before. I'll leave you here. I have to go back. There are many guests waiting for me. I'm sure we'll meet again. If you lose, you can't go back on your word. Looking at Luo Ro's back, Nian Bing smiled helplessly. He didn't expect that just after getting rid of Xuejing, he would provoke such a big trouble. The wise girl Luo Ro wasn't as easy to deal with as Xuejing. He really hoped that the month would end quickly so that he could leave this chaotic place. While thinking, Nian Bing walked out. The housekeeper at the door had disappeared. The soldiers were still guarding the door. He stretched his body and looked at the sky. He was really tired today. However, after returning to the Magician's Guild, he would read some books. He hadn't finished the last book of the day. When he thought of reading books, Nian Bing's interest suddenly rose. In the world of magic and books, his mind would become open and time would pass faster. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but quicken his pace. After walking out of the courtyard, he identified the direction and walked in the direction of the Magician's Guild. After walking for a short distance, the heavenly flower token on Nian Bing's chest suddenly emitted a warm current. Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat and he immediately stopped. The heavenly flower token was a treasure. It would often give him a warning when he was in danger. Back then, when he encountered the poisonous wasps in the peach blossom forest, it was thanks to the token's timely warning that he was able to prepare magic in time to get through the danger. Without much time to hesitate, a light blue light surrounded Nian Bing's body and condensed. He rhythmically chanted an incantation while looking at the empty street in the distance. The heavenly flower token's warning was completely correct. The air current that pierced through his skin with a powerful pressure suddenly descended from the left side of the roof and rushed towards Nian Bing's position. It was a familiar red light. When he felt the air current of this attack, Nian Bing immediately knew who it was. At this time, his incantation was completed. Just as he was about to release the extremely high defensive grade 4 icicle shield, a white light suddenly lit up diagonally. The white light wasn't intense, but it was extremely fast. It arrived before the red light and blocked in front of Nian Bing. A light ding sound rang out. The sharp sound shook Nian Bing's eardrums and caused him to unconsciously retreat to the side of the wall. Two figures, one white and one silver, landed on the ground at the same time. The silver figure was naturally the crazy woman Xuejing that Nian Bing had imagined, but the white figure was unexpectedly Yan Feng. When Nian Bing had left earlier, Yan Feng had seemed to have gone to the washroom, so Nian Bing hadn't been able to say goodbye to him before leaving. Yan Feng raised the white dagger in its scabbard. "Crazy woman, you're acting crazy here again. As a martial arts practitioner, you actually sneak attacked a magician in the dark. You don't deserve to practice martial arts at all." Xuejing's eyes were filled with fury as she looked hatefully at Nian Bing. "I did sneak attack, what do you care? Who are you to him that you need to save him? Get out of my way, I'm going to kill him today." Nian Bing frowned slightly and said, "Xuejing, I don't think there's such a deep hatred between us." Xuejing's eyes suddenly turned red. "No? After what happened today, how do you expect me to raise my head in front of my sisters in the future? Let me ask you, since you're a magician, why did you come to the Breeze sect to chop firewood? Why did you lie to me? Everything you did before was just an act, right? It was all to deceive me, wasn't it? What enmity do I have with you that I need you to scheme against me like this?" Nian Bing hadn't expected Xuejing to take this matter so seriously. She frowned slightly and said, "Xuejing, it's true that I'm a magician, but I went to the Breeze sect to chop firewood completely willingly. I have my own motives. I never wanted to lie to you, and you never asked me if I knew magic. How can this be considered lying? Can you please calm down a little?" "Calm down? I can't calm down. Today, in front of so many guests, most of them saw that you came with me, but you ignored me and had the first dance with Ro. What's the meaning of this? Are you trying to show off to me? You despicable scoundrel, I'm going to kill you today." The red fighting spirit on the long sword in her hand shone brightly. It was obvious that she was about to attack again. Nian Bing suddenly felt that it was funny. He clearly realized that Xuejing's hatred towards him was mostly due to jealousy. When he thought of the word jealousy, even he didn't find it funny. Could it be that this unruly girl who had always looked down on him actually had feelings for him? Red light exploded. The long sword in Xuejing's hand was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Nianbing's aura was ferocious. It was obvious that Xuejing had used all of her strength. A white screen of light rose from below. Crisp sounds rang out one after another. Nianbing only saw a blur in front of his eyes. Xuejing and Yanfeng were already 5 meters away from him. However, Xuejing's face was pale. The sword in her hand was only half broken. A dagger that emitted traces of cold air was placed on her slender neck. Murderous intent radiated from Yanfeng's eyes. He said coldly, "Crazy girl, I don't care if you're crazy or not. However, if you want to kill my friend, then don't blame me for being merciless. Others might be wary of your father, Xueji, but I don't care. Brother Yan, please have mercy." Nianbing hurriedly shouted. He walked in front of the two. As he got closer, he saw that Xuejing's gaze was alternating between him and Yanfeng. It was as if she didn't know that there was a dagger on her neck that could take her life at any time. Tears rolled down her smooth skin. A sorrowful aura instantly filled the air. Suddenly, Nianbing saw a strange expression in Xuejing's eyes. It was despair amidst anger and sorrow. He knew that things weren't going well. His reaction was extremely fast. The moment he realized that things weren't going well, he immediately raised his hand to grab Yanfeng's dagger. Just as Nianbing had predicted, Xuejing closed her eyes and slammed into Yanfeng's dagger. Time was of the essence. Yanfeng didn't have time to react. At this critical moment, Nianbing's hand reached out and grabbed Yanfeng's dagger. Meanwhile, Xuejing slammed into the back of his hand. Fresh blood flowed down Nianbing's hand and dyed Yanfeng's dagger red. The dagger seemed to have a mind of its own as it trembled slightly, as if it was very excited. Xuejing felt that something was wrong. When she opened her eyes, she happened to see fresh blood dripping to the ground. She was stunned. Nianbing sighed softly and looked at Xuejing helplessly. "Why did you do this? Can't you even handle such a small blow? Did you think about your family and friends when you slammed into the dagger? Xuejing, even though you have the nickname of a madwoman, there's a limit to your madness. Life is a gift from the heavens. Everyone only has a few decades. Cherish your life." Yanfeng's left hand tapped repeatedly and sealed the blood vessels on Nianbing's wrist. He said coldly, "If she wants to die, then let her die. Why did you bother to save her?" Nianbing smiled slightly and said, "Brother Yan, you're being too extreme. I've said before that life is precious. Furthermore, she was only blinded by anger. Miss Xuejing helped me before, but I've been hiding the fact that I'm a sorcerer from her. This dagger, take it as me paying her back. Miss Xuejing, from now on, I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything either. Please go back." Even though the blood had slowed down, it still dripped to the ground. The anger in Xuejing's eyes disappeared when she saw the blood. Instead, it was replaced by a complicated look. She bit her lower lip and retreated step by step. She threw the broken sword on the ground and turned to run. In the dark night sky, 2 strings of sparkling tears floated. "Nianbing, how are you? My frost flame dagger is very sharp. I'm afraid it's already injured your muscles and bones. What should we do? You can't take out the dagger. I'll take you to a doctor immediately." Yanfeng's eyes no longer had the cold arrogance from before. Instead, they were filled with concern. Looking at his concerned gaze, Nianbing suddenly felt that something was wrong. She hurriedly said, "Thank you for your concern, Brother Yan. Don't worry, it's not as serious as you think. Your dagger is indeed very sharp. It even cut through the ice in my hand." As he said that, he slowly opened his hand. 2 pieces of red ice fell to the ground. Even though there was a lot of blood, the wound wasn't deep. Xuejing's attack had only caused Yanfeng's frost flame dagger to cut through the ice and pierce Nianbing's skin. The source of life. "Jean, please shine your light." Bestow the healing water with the seal of life on it to relieve my pain. Water healing technique. Blue specks of light condensed on Nian Bing's hand. The specks of light surged towards his palm like strands of silk, and the bleeding stopped immediately. Under the effect of the blue specks of light, the wound that wasn't very deep was healing at a visible rate. Nian Bing smiled with satisfaction and said, "Sure enough, there's a house of gold in books. I didn't read it for nothing yesterday. This level 2 water healing technique is much more useful than a level 1 healing technique." This level 2 spell was the one he saw in a water magic book in the Magician Guild yesterday. Ice magic was derived from water magic. Not only did it have the ability to control ice, it could also be considered a water magician. However, if one was only a water magician, they couldn't use ice magic. This was why ice magic had a higher status than the other 4 types of magic in the world of magic. Yan Feng praised, "Magic is truly a miraculous thing. Just this healing technique is something that martial arts can't achieve." Nian Bing smiled and said, "Thank you for saving me, Brother Yan. Even though magic has its advantages, martial arts also has its own specialties." Yan Feng no longer had his cold demeanor. He smiled and said, "Don't mention it. Actually, I already saw that you were prepared. But as the saying goes, too much concern makes one confused. I couldn't help but make a move. That crazy woman actually wanted to kill someone over such a small matter." Nian Bing felt that something was wrong. From Yan Feng's eyes, he already saw something. He forced a smile and said, "Brother Yan, I still have matters to attend to. I have to return to the Magician Guild first." Yan Feng said with some reluctance, "Brother Nian, we're already friends. Can I visit you at the Magician Guild in the future?" "Oh right, you can also call me by my nickname. My nickname is Chrysanthemum, Yen Chrysanthemum." Nian Bing's whole body went cold, but he couldn't refuse Yan Feng who just saved him. He could only resist the urge to vomit and nodded, "Of course you can, Brother Yan. Then we'll meet again someday." After he finished speaking, he slightly nodded towards Yan Feng and turned towards the direction of the Magician Guild. As he walked, he thought to himself, "Xuejing, oh Xuejing, of all people you could like, you just had to like a piece of glass." Thinking to this point, Nian Bing couldn't help but feel his whole body go cold. It would be best if he didn't see this Brother Yan again in the future. As he walked towards the Magician Guild, Nian Bing's mind kept replaying Yan Feng's resentful gaze when he left. His whole body went cold. He lifted his magician's robe and realized that there was already a layer of goosebumps on his skin. No wonder that guy treated him differently when they first met. No wonder he didn't even look at a beauty like Xuejing. It turned out that he actually had that kind of disgusting hobby. Luckily he noticed it early from his gaze. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if he really got entangled. It was obvious that that guy's martial arts were very high. Unless he used the Sigh of the Snow Goddess and the ice and fire magic, it would be very difficult to win against him. What's more, he didn't have any evil intentions. He simply couldn't make a move against him. Right now, he just hoped that he wouldn't come looking for him. Otherwise, if he was misunderstood by others, he really wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Azure River. Slowly walking on the street, Nian Bing's heart was very relaxed. Xuejing's matter was finally settled. Although it might be hard for her to accept it, at least he blocked a knife for her. No matter how crazy she was, she wouldn't hate him. The sound of hurried horse hooves suddenly sounded. Nian Bing hurriedly moved to the side. The street he was walking on wasn't very wide. If he was hit, he would be in trouble. 2 long neighs sounded and 2 horses stopped in front of Nian Bing. He was surprised to find that the owners of the horses were actually Long Ling and Shi Jiu. The 2 of them dismounted and Shi Jiu unhappily said, "I say brother, why didn't you even say goodbye before leaving?" Nian Bing bitterly smiled and said, "In that kind of situation, how could I not leave?" Long Ling's originally gentle gaze had a bit of coldness. "Nian Bing, I need you to explain the matter with silence." Nian Bing bitterly smiled and said, "Explain? It's very easy. You should also know that she asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend and come with her to attend the meeting. Before joining the Magician's Guild, I had just arrived at Ice Snow City and was unfamiliar with the place. When I passed by Qingfeng Zhai and De Qingxian, I wanted to find a job to settle down. Who knew that I would be troubled by the third shopkeeper of De Qingxian? Xuejing just happened to pass by and punish the shopkeeper. She took me into Qingfeng Zhai and let me chop firewood temporarily. Maybe it's because I'm not bad looking that she chose me to pretend to be her boyfriend." Long Ling was stunned and said, "It's that simple?" Nian Bing shrugged and said, "It's that simple. If you don't believe me, you can ask Xuejing." Long Ling frowned and said, "Letting a great magician chop firewood, what a joke. However, since silence helped you before, why did you embarrass her at the banquet today? Just because she asked you to pretend to be her boyfriend?" Nian Bing shook his head and said, "I told Luo Ro before that I only wanted to teach Xuejing a lesson. I can endure the humiliation she gave me, but I don't want her to go on like this forever. Such a self-righteous madwoman will one day suffer a bigger setback. Instead of that, I might as well provoke her a little. Besides, do you think my provocation to her is that strong? The one who really said that I'm a great magician is you, Ling Er." Especially a book that introduced the basic method of making magic scrolls. He studied it for the longest time. Every once in a while, someone would send food in. Nian Bing's mind was on the book. He didn't look at who sent it. Anyway, as long as he smelled the fragrance, he would read and eat. Time passed like this. So tired. I don't know how many days have passed. Nian Bing stretched and rubbed his aching waist. He slowly stood up. He finally finished reading all the things he needed on the first floor. Relying on his photographic memory, he firmly imprinted all the things he needed in his mind. After memorizing so many things and not resting, Nian Bing only felt that his head was groggy. Although he longed to sleep, he understood that in this kind of situation, he had to meditate. He couldn't relax at all. Magic practice was like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. If you don't communicate with the magic elements for a long time, your magic power will gradually decline. Thinking of this, he forced himself to sit cross-legged and began to sense the magic elements outside his body. Through the Ice Goddess Stone and the Fire God Stone, he helped himself to recover his spirit. When Nian Bing woke up again, it was just daytime. The sunlight shone on his body through the library's window, bringing a burst of warmth. He knew that he didn't meditate for long this time. Through a deeper understanding of magic knowledge, he had a better understanding of his ice and fire magic. He faintly felt that the balance between his two magic powers was not stable. He still needed a deeper fusion to achieve the true ice and fire magic. However, he had no clue how to do it. After all, ice and fire were two extremes. Because they were rotating now, they didn't affect each other. Once he forcefully broke this balance, he was afraid that the first thing that couldn't bear it would be his own body. Not to mention a deeper fusion, whether or not he could keep his life would be a problem. It was because of this reason that although Nian Bing knew that if he continued to practice, the vortex would get bigger and bigger, and the hidden danger would also increase, he really didn't dare to try. Now he only hoped that on the second, third, and fourth floor of this library, or even that mysterious fourth floor, there would be theories that could guide him. Although the hope was very slim, but more or less there was still some hope. The sound of the door opening sounded. Nian Bing subconsciously looked up and saw Long Ling walking in with a tray. Upon seeing Nian Bing awake, Long Ling couldn't help but exclaim, "Nian Bing, you finished meditating?" Nian Bing smiled and said, "Have I been in here for a long time? Are you the one who's been sending me food all this time?" Long Ling said with some dissatisfaction, "You. Liking to read is a good thing, but you can't do it day and night like this. If it wasn't for Father telling me not to disturb you, I wouldn't have let you continue reading. You just read for 3 days and 3 nights, and then meditated for 2 days and 2 nights. I have never seen such a studious person like you. No wonder at such a young age, your magic has reached the level of a great magician. Here, eat something first. You must be hungry after meditating for 2 days. Nian Bing took the tray. There was a bowl of porridge, 2 steamed buns, and a small pile of salted vegetables. It was an ordinary thing, but at this time, seeing these food, he clearly felt that his heart was surrounded by a warm feeling. Long Ling was a good girl. He and she could barely be regarded as friends, but she actually treated him like this. This kind of kindness, he had to repay. Why are you in a daze? Aren't you hungry? Long Ling gently touched Nian Bing. Hungry, of course I'm hungry. I'll eat now. Long Ling finally saw the legendary wolfing down food. 2 steamed buns and a bowl of porridge were completely finished in less than 30 breaths. Nian Bing was still somewhat unsatisfied as he poured all the salted vegetables into his mouth. After swallowing, he patted his stomach with satisfaction. Eating so fast, aren't you afraid of choking? Looking at Nian Bing, who looked like he hadn't eaten for several lifetimes, Long Ling couldn't help but laugh. Nian Bing handed the tray back to Long Ling and said, "Thank you. I've rested now. I think I should go to the 2nd floor to read." "What? You still want to read? Don't you want to rest for a while?" Long Ling looked at Nian Bing in surprise. Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "There's no need for that. There's still much more that I need to learn from the 2nd and 3rd levels. It wasn't easy to come to this treasury, I really don't want to leave." As he said that, he was about to go upstairs. Long Ling pulled Nian Bing back and said, "Wait a minute. Did you know that Silence came to find you yesterday? Also, Yen Feng was here before." Nian Bing frowned and said, "Why did they find me?" Long Ling said, "Yen Feng came when you were reading, which was the 2nd day after you came back. He looked at you at the door for a while. Seeing that you were so focused, he quietly left. Before he left, he seemed to have said that your focused look was very attractive. He also said a few strange words. I didn't understand what he meant, but it was the first time I've seen that kind of expression." Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, "All right, there's no need to describe it. Oh right, Linger, who is this Yen Feng? It seems like no one in Ice Snow City dares to offend him. Even Luo Ro's father, the Count, doesn't dare." Long Ling said, His identity is very special. On the surface, he is the 7th son of the current Ice Moon Empire's king, which is the 7th prince. However, for some reason, he was chased out of Ice Moon City by the king. He was allowed to live in Ice Snow City, and was specially given a mansion. Yen Feng doesn't seem to have any hobbies. Every day, other than practicing martial arts, he would occasionally go out for a walk. He rarely attends banquet. That day, he only attended the banquet because he had asked Ro for a favor. I feel that he seems to be very special to you. It's the first time I've seen him so concerned about someone. Nian Bing sighed and said, "It's better not to have this kind of concern." Then why did Xuejing come looking for me? Long Ling said, "Silence seemed to have gotten into a fight with someone and was injured. She told me that a woman went to Clear Wind Cottage to look for you. She and that woman didn't get along and started fighting. In the end, that woman was very strong and injured her in just a few moves. Only when Uncle Snow came out and told the woman that you were no longer in Clear Wind Cottage did she agree to leave. According to Silence, that woman's strength is actually not below Uncle Snow's. She seems to have the strength of a martial artist. Silence told me to tell you that that woman broke a lot of things in Clear Wind Cottage, a total of 167 purple coins. She wants you to pay for it." Nian Bing's body trembled slightly. Could it be that she went looking for me? Damn it, how could I forget about her? Linger, I'm going out for a bit. Thank you for telling me this.